And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
SRG was in the area of the protest. They were there on in a backup capacity.
Back up! SRG, the Strategic Response Group, the NYPD officers trained in counterterrorism and crowd control.
They were brought in after mayhem, as soon as mayhem ensued.
On Saturday, protests and terrorism converged when Amir Balat and Ibrahim Qayyumi lit what authorities say were 2 bombs in an ISIS-inspired attack at the scene of an anti-Muslim protest near Gracie Mansion. A source told New York One that the SRG deployment was a fraction of what it could have been, with the NYPD's advance notice of dueling and contentious protesters and counter-demonstrators. An NYPD official said overall police deployment was commensurate with the relatively small number of demonstrators. As for the SRG officers,
they weren't there from the get-go. That was a command decision. I would have had them there, but that's me.
John Schell is a retired NYPD chief of department.
If you take them away, you're kind of leaving the NYPD in the city naked of bad protesters.
Mayor Mamdani has said he directed the NYPD commissioner to come up with a plan to disband the unit, decoupling, he said, counterterrorism from protests. He still maintains that position. In a statement from City Hall, Mayor Mamdani remains committed to disbanding the Strategic Response Group, and the administration is currently working with the police department on how to do so in a manner that both keeps New Yorkers safe and protects First Amendment rights. During the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests, civil liberties groups said SRG officers brutalized demonstrators and violated their rights.
The SRG should not be deployed as a first responder to protest, right? We've seen too many times with too many protests that doing that leads to the very violence at issue.
Molly Bicklin is legal director at the New York Civil Liberties Union. Its litigation led to a settlement with the city that sidelined SRG from policing protests from the get-go.
I think it's all the more important for the NYPD to really embrace and work on enforcing the NYPD protest settlement.
But retired NYPD Lieutenant John McCarry, who hosts the Finest Unfiltered podcast, thinks Saturday's failed terror attack shows otherwise.
It exposed the hole that was in the protest settlement agreement and how flawed that document actually is.
According to the New York Civil Liberties Union, the NYPD since October has been operating under a phase of the agreement that creates a 4-tiered response system for officers at protests. Dan Rivoli, New York One.
Attention, roll call. Eric.
I got muted again? Uh-oh. I pulled the Marlon. Actually, I took it off the mute. I don't know why it went back on. But good morning, everybody. It's your Friday roundtable with the Finest Unfiltered, 8:05 live Eastern Time. And, of course, we're talking about what happened in front of Gracie Mansion. Now, KB New York City, good morning. It says Eric did a Marlon. I sure did. I guess I hit it twice. Marlon, you're being contagious over here. So, what's interesting about that clip that you just saw, great job, by the way, John. What's interesting about that clip is that clip exemplifies and solidifies exactly what we've been saying. This protest settlement has a 4-tiered system. And the 4-tiered breakdown system gives the highest ranking member who is in charge, who's leading the operation or the planned event for a protest, according to the protest settlement, which would be a high-ranking chief such as Chief Edwards, the position of FAA supervisor. What is FAA supervisor? That's your First Amendment activity supervisor, who would be in the rank of chief. Now, the boots on the ground, the sergeants, the lieutenants, the cops, they're held to a position where they need the authority of that FAA supervisor as far as what resources would be needed or certain arrests, depending if they're green light zones or red light zone arrest. But when it comes to planned events, making those decisions on what resources are needed, Chief Edwards could have made the decision to have SRG present. It's up to the FAA supervisor on what specialized resources would be utilized. Now, how does that take place? According to the protest settlement, if anyone has a chance, just look it up. It's public information. The chief, the high-ranking supervisor, who is determined as the FAA supervisor, would document. You need written documentation on why those resources would be needed. Now, I don't think you need a brain surgeon to understand that the presence of Jake Lang at a protest and a counter-protest, two opposing groups, would foresee violence and would be necessary, and that written documentation would articulate itself. So here, we solidified it. You see it. It's right here, right in front of your face. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Finance Unfiltered. I'm sure this Friday roundtable, with the propaganda machine going on with the NYPD in New York City, we're prepared. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of trolls today. So our friends and listeners, be prepared. Thank you so much. John, good morning. Marlon, good morning. Let's do it.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's got good plans for the weekend. Yeah, man. Look, there's 100% propaganda machine being at play here in the NYPD. And, you know, it's fine to everybody pat yourself on the back. It's fine. You know, I don't think that the right people are getting patted on the back. And I really always believe in like after action reviews of everything, anything you do in life, whatever it is, you know. You buy something, you go to this, anything you do in life, you play a sport, you work out, like, you sit there and you contemplate, could I have done it better? Did I do it correctly? Those, I'm working on a book. I self-evaluate every day when I'm doing that. Like, was my day productive? Should I have changed? Like, what should I have done differently that day? And, the NYPD is literally playing with life and death. Sometimes you're not going to get a second chance and you're not going to get the opportunity to go back and think about that. But right here was literally a miracle. The only thing, in my opinion, that went right that day, the only thing that went right is that those two terrorists didn't mix the bomb concoction correctly. That was the only thing. Other than that, after the insanity happened and the bombs failed to detonate, other than the apprehension by Officer Grant Polligren and then a few community affairs cops, I have their names and I'll say them at some point, whether they want to or not. It is what it is. It's public information. So, I mean, it is what it is. You deserve the credit. People are like, who the hell are you to put out cops' names? I'm like, look, once their face is out there, it is what it is. They're heroes. They deserve the credit. They ran towards certain death and certain danger. I think even more so than Navarro and Edward. But so those were the only thing that went right. I mean, I have videos, some that I'm not going to release. I have video from people on the scene that day where it's scary, man. And even in the aftermath, even when they understand that these are devices, the way the NYPD moves, it's horrific. It absolutely horrific. Should those devices have detonated later, everybody on that scene is going to get killed in Maine. And again, I believe it all stems from the systemic failure, one in the planning of this event, one from the optics and politics coming out of the top of One Police Plaza from Jessica Tisch. I honestly think she's an embarrassment at this point. I don't know what she's doing. If Steve Tisch didn't embarrass the family enough, she's certainly going to embarrass them, because I can't imagine. I can't imagine going along with something I didn't believe in unless she believes in it. It's one or the other. Rebecca Weiner failed 100%. And I don't care if you're being overridden by Jessica Tisch or Zohran Mamdani. You are the Deputy Commissioner of Counterterrorism Intelligence. That is it. End of story. Your name is it. That is your name all over that. The planning there was horrific. And then again, when we get to Chief Aaron Edwards, I'm sitting there and I'm going, this guy's being lauded as if he stopped a terrorist attack, which he did not. And he's being lauded as if he apprehended perps, as he apprehended the terrorists, which he did not. And then I see him sitting up there gloating and taking all of it and really not really crediting his guys. I see people around in the NYPD trying to say that, oh, he's credited them. Look, he said this and saying things he didn't say. I'm like, he didn't say that. I just watched the same clip as you. Where'd you get that information from? Where are you saying that? He said that. He never said that. He said, oh, I don't want this picture to be about me. I want it to be about what we did that day. How about honoring the people that did what they were supposed to do that day? Because, again, in my opinion, Chief Aaron Edwards failed miserably as the leadership on the scene. He was set up for failure by his leadership, and then everyone on that scene was set up for failure by Chief Aaron Edwards because he had the authority. He had the authority to properly staff that protest, and he refused to. And when you don't properly staff things in the NYPD, you are inviting acts of terrorism, whether they're domestic, whether they're foreign. You're inviting chaos. You're inviting violence. And even after violence and chaos ensued, Chief Aaron Edwards did not want to break rank. He did not want to like Jessica Tisch. He did not want those optics and those politics. He placed those optics and those politics ahead of the safety of his members and ahead of the safety of innocent New Yorkers. And honestly, it's absolutely disgusting that anyone's celebrating this. If it was a day or two, I'd be like, all right. But now watching interview after interview after interview and watching like people around in law enforcement that know exactly what happened and aren't saying anything, you're literally walking people into a really bad situation. You're leaving New York City wide open and vulnerable, and nobody cares. The media doesn't care. They're all complicit. When the next thing happens, and it will, because it's just a matter of time, the blood is going to be all over your hand. And believe me, I'm not going to be silent about it. I'm not. I'm going to call you out specifically by name, and I'm going to say, I warned this. You said this. I told you bad things were going to happen, and you said this. I told you were endangering innocent lives, and you said this. And I'm going to be just as brutal as I'm going to be on this podcast today, because the truth matters. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here for anything. I'm sitting here. I'm telling the truth. I'm telling you how I see it from what I see. I'm not a counterterrorism expert. I'm not a law enforcement expert. I'm not anything. I'm a bum lieutenant with 18 years on, and I have common sense in my brain, and I can see that things are systemically wrong there, very wrong, and everyone on that scene should be in church every morning thanking whatever God they believe in, because that is the only damn reason you are here. Jessica Tisch failed you. Rebecca Weiner failed you. Zohran Mondani failed you. Chief Aaron Edwards failed you.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Yeah, we're the Guardians Association isn't going to be happy with us this morning. Yeah, and a particular lawyer is probably going to be furious at you, and he's probably working on his tweet right now, John. But yeah, the thing is, though, I wonder if an event happens again, how much of it will we actually know? You know, I mean, how much of the truth is actually going to come out? Because what we've seen here is they're not exactly, now, to be fair, they're not exactly telling you that Edwards stopped the guy that Edwards stopped the guy with the bomb, and that Edwards prevented the bomb from exploding, right? What they're doing is letting the media run wild with the narratives and failing to correct them and putting out what exactly happened. They're leaving a lot of room for people to infer on their own that Edwards and Navarro are actually the ones who prevented the terrorist attack. And again, I don't think any of that is coincidental. I think that's 100% deliberate, because they don't want the media to continue talking about this and to dig further into this, because it exposes multiple failures, like John just said. Again, so I say if another event happens, I don't think you're gonna know much of the truth. I see what's going on here as a trial run. Just like during the scamdemic, the media was all on board, and you can tell somebody in the media, you can show them the facts, you can retweet them, all the information you have, pictures, right? But they're still gonna continue running with the narrative, because they've been given instructions and they're going to follow through on it. So if another event happens again, you best believe that there's going to be that the media is going to be led to run wild, okay? Unless it's inconvenient for the job and for Tisch, at which point she'll correct them. But they're not going to put out a factual narrative of what exactly happened, because that factual narrative is inconvenient to them.
First of all, I just want to say I'm disgusted by all this. I honestly, I'm disgusted by this, because every cop, from police officer, brand new, straight out of the academy, up till chief, should be in a position and have the ability and capabilities to jump over a 2-foot fence and run towards danger. That's your job. That's why you take an oath. That's why you wear a uniform. That's why you serve as a law enforcement professional in New York City, especially New York City, in the biggest metropolis in the entire world. where we have the epicenter in Times Square. I mean, this is New York City we're talking about. Now, I'm disgusted by this. I watched Chief Edwards on CBS Morning, CBS New York, gloating from ear to ear with a huge smile, and even say he surprised himself by jumping over that barrier. Now, listen, that might be all well and good. It's great for photo ops. But let's talk about beyond the optics. What's really happening here? What's really happening here is an epic failure. Why? Because that protest settlement in many ways is a hindrance. But if you're in the position of the FAA supervisor, which is the high-ranking chief in charge, which would be Chief Edwards, you're actually in a position to take extreme leadership. Because I read this protest settlement numerous times and broke it down. And if you look at this 4-tiered system, if you're the chief, you're actually in a good position where you could actually take charge, because the entire onus, responsibility, accountability is on that FAA supervisor. And the FAA supervisor is in a position to document what resources will be needed, what resources will be available and present, and documented why. So to know in policing, to know who, what, where, when, why, you have to dive into it. So if Chief Edwards did his job properly and had intelligence doing their job when it comes to this protest, you would be prepared. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance, and you would be prepared for it by having the necessary specialized resources, which would include SRG. Not having SRG around the corner available in the aftermath. One thing we learned as a cop is as simple as when you have people drinking, right? In open containers. Let's say you have 2 or 3 people in a high crime area, an area that's prone to violence, especially shootings. Do we stop those people from drinking? Is that the biggest crime in itself? No. We stop where there's 3 people drinking, because it's a lot worse when there's 25 or 50 and someone's shot and we have to enter that location, right? We plan for the worst. And that's what we learned in policing, is to prevent issues, to have preventive measures. So the fact that this goes back to everything I've been saying, is that these chiefs are very self-serving. The fact that he's smiling from ear to ear tells me a lot. You shouldn't be smiling from ear to ear. What you should be saying is, wow, I learned a lot from this situation. I learned how my police officers could be in a very vulnerable situation. I learned about the residents of New York City, of how dangerous these things could be. And if I'm ever in charge of the next protest or counter-protest, we're going to bring all the necessary resources and put us in a better position so I don't have to jump over a 2-foot barrier. And let's give credit to Officer Pulgarin, who actually took down that perpetrator. Let's give credit to those cops. Don't give credit to yourself. Let the cops do it. The cops will give you the credit. They will. If you put the credit out there to who it deserves, believe me, behind closed doors, they will be talking about you. But this is just a giant propaganda machine. The deflection is to put the onus and put the presence and put a camera on Chief Edwards, so you're not focused on the epic failure. And the bottom line is, Chief Edwards, if you weren't aware of the protest settlement, you sure are now. And if you weren't aware that you were in charge, you sure are now. You were supposed to put all the preventive measures and plans in place so this doesn't happen, so that we're not having a picture like this. And John, I know you said this before, and it's spot on. If everything was done correctly, that picture doesn't happen. The sergeant doesn't kick an IED. 2 IEDs were deployed. Think about that. Not 1, but 2. How many times did those 2 persons of interest pass by police officers, walk in that protest, had behavioral indicators that did not fit the baseline, that in the past, with anti-crime and intrusive police work, they would have been stopped, questioned, and possibly frisked, and this may have been prevented, even with failures that have been put in place, right? We had a balance. We would have plans put in place, but we would also have intrusive police work. So this is an epic fail on both ends. And it shows you the state of the police of the NYPD, that the NYPD no longer looks for those behavioral indicators. John, you said it before, talk about how the NYPD moves differently. The NYPD moves much different now than it used to. When we got on the police department, we were very intrusive. We will always scan the area, looking for things that don't fit the baseline. I'm sure I wasn't there, but I'm sure that these 2 persons of interest had behavioral indicators that did not fit the baseline, and in the past would have been stopped. Some measure would have been taken place. But this is where we are now. And Marlon, you've said it. You said it, where people throw things and the cops will no longer react to it. And John said it also. There was a time, if someone threw something, we would have no idea if it was a piece of paper or what it was, but immediately action would have been taken. Someone would have been placed in handcuffs, and a full investigation would have been done. preventive measures. That was de-escalation. But the police department has been hamstrung, and we have a complete different reaction. The training is different. Just a natural reaction of what the training is in the neural pathways, we see a complete different reaction by the police department. It's changed completely. It's no longer the go-to policing. It's sad.
Look, if it was staffed properly, they never light the first one and get it off the throw, because you'd have cops in the vicinity that would see what they were doing. I mean, you see exactly where they did it, and he goes back to the same spot the second time, exactly where it is. They're like in between this block where Chief Edwards and his guys are all the way down there. The other cops are over here, and the whole block's wide open. If the protest was staffed properly, if it was penned right, if it wasn't a shit show, I mean, I don't even know if he throws the first one. I don't even know that he throws the first one. But even if he does throw the first one, he's never getting back to light that second one and throw the second one. And so that's what I mean by that. And you just we gotta be realistic here. Look, I don't give a shit about the media fanfare. I really don't. I care more about that there's no pivoting on what happened. There's not a pivot here at all. That's what I care about. That the celebration it has everyone believing that these guys stopped a terrorist attack and apprehended the terrorists, when in fact they did not do either of those things. And so we have to sit here and be like, all right, the bombs didn't go off. What if they did? Why were the bombs able to get ignited during a protest? And you hear the insanity. I've showed you the clip numerous times. I posted it numerous times. Zohran Mamdani does not believe that our counterterrorism resources should be staffed at First Amendment activity, such as protests. That is an insane take. That is absolutely insane. So for all of you cucks that are trying to go work with Zohran Mamdani or work with him currently, who aren't jumping up and down, you unions are disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. I haven't even begun to start on you yet because I'm so sick to my stomach with what I'm watching. I haven't even begun. It's coming. It's coming. You guys, get your fake accounts ready. Get all your threats ready, because it's coming. Because it's honestly disgusting, dude. It is really disgusting, dude. Like, what should be happening? Maybe not in the front, but in the background. What should be happening is we should look at it as this incident, as in fact those devices went off, and why and where we failed, and why they were able to get them in there, what we're going to do differently. But instead, this media fanfare has you all thinking that you're superheroes, has you all propped up like you won the game. And it wasn't even like the all-star player got hurt at the game. It was like the whole team got disqualified. That's what happened. You didn't win nothing. You didn't score a point. The other team scored 100-0 and then got disqualified. So you won the game, and you're jumping up and down, giving yourself medals, thinking you guys are Michael Jordan. That's what I'm watching right now. And there's no pivot. There's no pivot in the background. And it's honestly leaving New York City open for a really, really bad terrorist attack. We just had another 2 terrorist attack across the country. I mean, you people don't see what's happening. You people want to argue about, oh, it wasn't nice that you said that Chief Edwards has 30 collars. Well, he does. He made 30 collars, and I see a completely inexperienced chief at that protest. I see a chief that wasn't aware that who Jake Lang was, what happened across the country with Jake Lang, and what he should be prepared for that day. Because it was very obvious what was going to happen. They were literally saying they were going to assassinate Jake Lang. If I could see it from Florida, I'm sitting in Florida, and I knew that was going to be a shit show. I was texting people like, yo, it's going to be bad. It's going to be a bad one. Watch the insanity that's going to happen. If I knew that from Florida, how doesn't Chief Edwards know that from New York City? From actually being on the ground. If you didn't know it prior because you didn't do your homework, that's one thing. But then when you're in the mix and Jake Lang starts pushing back at you guys and saying, we're going to hold the line, he had 7 people. You know what I would have did? No one even gets the chance to throw a bomb anywhere at cops or anything else, because Jake Lang and his buddies are going to be in handcuffs the minute they say they're going to hold the line and don't effing touch us, and they're not going to listen to what we're doing. And I'll be explaining why Jake Lang got messed up, and it'll have all the conservative bros. The NYPD locked up conservative Christian warrior Jake Lang. Like, yeah, all right, whatever. Jake Lang's a moron who didn't follow orders, and, I don't even believe he's a Christian, so good luck. like it was a systemic failure all the way throughout. Way prior to those terrorists even being on the scene, that whole protest, that whole thing should have been knocked out. Like we said, we had video of it. I don't want to replay what the executive perspective played on Wednesday, but that was a clear indicator of what should have happened. Jake Lang should have been arrested right there on the scene. There were numerous of the leftist protesters that should have been arrested. If that would have happened, order would have been restored. People would have been in pens, and those two terrorists would not have the great opportunity they had to hide behind the cover of chaos. There was too much chaos there. There was an inept response by the New York City Police Department. This is not anything that I'm ever going to celebrate. And the fact that the police commissioner, the deputy commissioner of counterterrorism, the chief of department, this Chief Aaron Edwards, this Sergeant Luis Navarra, that they don't have the balls to tell the truth of actually what happened, just scares me to death. It scares me to death, and I see what's happening, and I see a lot of you people buying into it. Look, you're wide open. The blood's not going to be on my hand. I am screaming from the mountaintops that we need to change our protest posture immediately. Immediately. We spoke about the aftermath, about how they handled that. They left the perpetrator's vehicle. They left terrorists' vehicle on the street for 24 hours after, because even the investigation was so inept. There really needs to be a really rude awakening what happened. No one understands what happened. Zohran Mamdani's trying to paint the picture that white supremacists tried to blow him up. That's not what happened. It was Islamic terrorists that actually threw bombs at cops, not even at Jake Lang, because if you look where it went towards the cops. So I mean, I don't know, dude. Like it's infuriating. It's infuriating to watch and to listen to, and it's even scarier to think that no one even has the courage to say anything about it. Shell, I'll give him a little credit. He went on Fox and Friends, and he gave credit to Officer Grant Pulligrin for apprehending the suspect for the tackle that he did. I'll give him credit for that. And if you heard that New York one clip that we played, I give him credit for that too, where he said, I would have had them there. I would have had the SRG there if it was there, meaning Edwards could have had them there, right? That was a command decision. That was an operational command decision that Edwards chose not to do, kind of suggesting there was a big failure right there. And then he went on to say that, if we don't staff this properly, we leave New York City open to bad protesters. What he really wanted to say, and what I did say, but obviously didn't make it to the news, is New York City's wide open for another terrorist attack, and the NYPD should immediately change its posture, but instead it's doubling down on failure.
Yeah, I got to give credit to Chief Chell, and this is probably one of the few times we're actually going to be on the same page with him. But I got to give him credit for at least, giving Officer Pulgrin his due. So yeah, we criticize him when he needs criticism, and we should give him credit when he does something that's good for the cops. And in this case, it's good that he put his name out there, because nobody in the media was even touching it.
Yeah, but Marlon, I got a question.
Mhm.
We know he says he would do that now in retirement, but when he was chief of department under Eric Adams and now under Zohran Mamdani, would he actually do it? That's a different thing. Him saying he would do it, but we know that he panders to his bosses. Would he actually do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question. We know you're probably watching this. I'd like to hear an answer from that, Chief. But John said a lot there. Where do I go? Where do I start here? I think one of the problems is that a lot of the decision making is centralized at the top. And what have we seen with boots on the ground? Cops are standing around waiting on things to be done. I was Googling. So last night, right, I was going through Twitter, and what I noticed is certain key phrases keep popping up when they were retweeting this. I'll talk about that later. But I happened to stumble upon a video from November 2025 of protest going awry in Times Square. And I noticed Chief Baudet, he actually ripped a guy off a scooter. I was like, I initially thought, oh man, that was a recent video. I mean, I guess the chief must have taken heart to what we said, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do my job. But what struck me was that it was the chief that pulled the guy off the scooter, and now the cops are on him, you know. And what have we been talking about? You see a lot of videos with cops just standing around there and waiting to be told what to do instead of being cops. And I've mentioned before how I've seen it on patrol where guys, you know, you get to a job, and back in the old days, it's our job. We're going to close it out. We don't need a boss here. Okay. This was a simple job that didn't need a boss. But the rookies were, and they were young too. They weren't just fresh out of the academy. They had like a year, 6 months, you know. But everybody was standing around waiting on the boss to come, and you know, me and my partner who was from Intel, we were there for the detail, and we're like, what's going on here? I didn't want to, you know, I'm a visitor there, so I'm like, okay, it's your job. But the fact that guys are standing around waiting for instructions is part of the problem, and you're seeing it spread throughout the boots on the ground. Everybody's waiting on somebody else at the top to give them instructions, and to nobody wants to call an audible, okay, and risk that they've made a bad decision, or something may go sideways, and now they're going to take the heat for it. And this I can only think that's what happened here in you know, Chief Edwards not making a call to get SRG or have him on scene, because again, if things going sideways, he figures, oh, I'm going to take the heat for you know, for going against the grain. And that is a massive problem with the job. It's a massive problem that we even need the Q teams to solve, like, quality of life concerns in a precinct. You know, you should be able to, every patrol car should be able to take care of those issues. Every precinct commander should be able to make decisions for his precinct, like you know, like in the old days, instead of waiting for instructions from the borough, or you should be, they should be more empowered than they are. And the fact that they're not is I believe one of the problems that contributed hit. And again, I'd like to point out that Chief Edwards is a very young guy to be a 2-star chief, okay? And he's a guy who came up in our time, okay? And he's not a guy like Chief Lukash or Chief Marino, who came up in the old school days, okay, when COs were different, okay? So I think that does play a part in it. And again, I think I'm sorry again, but I'm pointing it out, and we need to make shaming for arrests great again, okay? You need, because your basic job as a cop is to arrest bad guys, okay? That's your job. That's the basic job, okay? Preserve life, arrest the bad guys, okay? And if you're not arresting the bad guys, that's a reflection on you, on your ethic, your work ethic when you were there. And arresting bad guys gives you that experience, okay? So you get to learn how to recognize certain things, and you get to learn how to articulate certain things. So if you haven't been doing that as a cop, how do I have confidence that you have those that basic skill set when you've risen in the ranks?
So normally I don't like to acknowledge Juju, who's a complete idiot. Excuse me. But I think this comment is necessary. It just shows you where the head and the state of mind is for some of our trolls. Juju says Marlon, John, and Eric are jealous of Chief Edwards. Facts only. So here's the problem. Juju and many other trolls are making this about Chief Edwards and making this about us. We're not making this about us and making this about Chief Edwards. We're making this about the safety of New York City. And what Marlon said is spot on. Why do we have someone who gets promoted by rocket fuel? And if you don't think Chief Edwards got promoted by rocket fuel, you're not paying attention. Not in the same manner as Kaz Daughtry, but to me, he got promoted by rocket fuel. He made it from captain to assistant chief. We're talking about 2-star chief in the NYPD. We're talking about the NYPD, not a small town police department. More than the size of most armies in the entire world. We're talking about a 2-star chief who has a lot of power and responsibility. It takes years of experience to be in that kind of leadership role. And Chief Edwards went from captain to assistant chief in 7 years. 7 years is nothing when you think about that. On the average, I would say, John and Marlon, if you remember, most of the captains that came up during our time, it took them about 3 years to get from captain to deputy inspector. And then from deputy inspector, that would usually take about another 2 years, maybe 3 years. And then if they did make chief, that would be another couple of years. Now, I think in 7 years, now I want to talk about several flashpoints here. People don't want to hear it. But the bottom line, that is a DEI promotion. 7 years from captain to chief, I have a problem with that. Why? This is not about Chief Edwards. We're not jealous. This is not about us. I mean, clearly, I could have stayed in the police department. I was supposed to be promoted to captain. I was offered to go to Intel, the squad, to get off the street because of the target I was by the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I'm sure down the road, maybe I could have taken another captain's test. I could have went to chief. So could John and so could Marlon. But that's not what this is about. We made our choices. We are here in retirement, and we're here in the afterlife of the NYPD talking about the residents of New York City. This is an epic fail right here. We need people in positions that are prepared for such incidents like this. It doesn't take a brain surgeon. I'm pretty confident that if myself and John and Marlon were the FAA supervisors for this particular event, we would have all resources in place, and we would not be afraid to document that. Why? Because we have the knowledge and the intelligence behind that. Written documentation would be very articulable and easy to document when it comes to this particular planned event. John said it. From Marlon, same thing from my RV, and Marlon from New York City, we can see exactly what's going on. We're no longer within the NYPD. Chief Edwards got promoted in 7 years from captain. I think that's rocket fuel. I think that is a disservice to the people of New York City, that we're putting people in positions so that we can elevate and so that we can have a diverse NYPD, and we're failing the residents of New York City. Now, I want to talk the other flashpoint here. Now, John, you said that maybe the first one would be get ignited, but not the second. There was a time, and I'm pretty confident, in the NYPD that we came up, in the go-to policing, the intrusive policing, we paid attention to behavioral indicators. We would pay attention to the baseline. In no way would that first IED be deployed. Think about the behavioral indicators that are necessary, and also the presence of the NYPD. Not only would the NYPD react, but because of the presence and the aura of the NYPD before, persons of interest would react differently also. Because of the presence of the NYPD, it's, in my opinion, based on anecdotal experience, that the persons of interest there's no intimidation by the NYPD. There's no healthy fear that they're able to walk through a crowd, deploy these type of IEDs without being nervous, without giving off those behavioral indicators that would be recognizable. Because there was a time where people were terrified that if you had an illegal firearm on you, if you had something illegal, or you did something in the presence of the NYPD, you would immediately be apprehended, that those observations would be caught by the NYPD. But we're not looking for those behavioral indicators anymore. Marlon said it. People throw things at protest, and the NYPD doesn't respond. And that's part of training. They're not responding because they choose not to. I believe it's instilled in them right now because they don't have the training to do it, and they're not doing it. It's not in their neural pathways. We were trained a particular way. We were trained to do intrusive police work, and we did it on a constant basis. And if we went back to that baseline, it's in my opinion that even the first IED would not be deployed. Why? Because if you have an NYPD that's intrusive, constantly looking for those behavioral indicators, that an observation would have been made, and there would have been a stop. Someone would have been detained and prevent this. But we don't move in that manner anymore. And when you have a police commissioner such as Jessica Tisch saying that the SRG was in the area and that they're ready to show up after the mayhem, well, that's a problem because things have already escalated. We talk about de-escalation. That means to have all the preventive measures in place. This is a failure right here. And luck runs out. If we keep responding and keep planning for protests in this manner, someone is going to die or several people are going to die. This is sad. We're failing New York City right now. We're failing the entire world. And I say the entire world because New York City is the hub of terrorism. Everyone goes to New York City. This is an epic fail right now. And the fact that Chief Edwards is smiling ear to ear about jumping over a 2-foot barrier and not really taking accountability for the failure that happened here, it tells me a lot. It tells me that he's not ready for this position. Because when you're in a position of leadership, you have to take ownership. You have to take accountability, responsibility that this is not a success. This was a failure. You know, if police officers on a daily basis have encounters with people with illegal firearms, if you turn John and Marlon, when you remember doing plainclothes, if you turn a corner looking for a perpetrator, and if someone pulled a firearm on you and pulled the trigger, and it didn't go off because it was out of battery, is that a success or that's an epic failure and you're just lucky? So what makes this any different? So let's be honest. So Juju and the other trolls, this is not about us, and this is not about Chief Edwards. This is about the presence of the NYPD and the system that's there right now, because it's about self-promotion, it's about self-serving, paving the way for offspring, and about everyone who loves to be in that position. Jessica Tisch loves to be police commissioner. Edwards obviously loves to be chief, but they're not taking responsibility for the job.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, Marlon put out this meme where he showed that Officer Pulligren tackled the perp, and then he put where Edwards was and where Navarro was, so you could see clear as day the perception versus reality game that continues to happen now on the Zohran Mamdani. It started on the Eric Adams, but it continues now. And it's honestly, you know, again, it's perception versus reality on who actually did the apprehension. It's perception versus reality that a terrorist attack was thwarted, because clearly it was a failed attempt. It wasn't thwarted. And it's perception versus reality that the NYPD is fine, their protest posture is competent, and there's nothing to worry about. We're just going to continue in this manner. Mike Freed said that the problem is that the department and most of the cops are reactive instead of proactive. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's a fair point, and I agree with you. And I think it has a lot to do with the training and the mission of the department. It has more to do with the leadership of the department than who specifically was the mayor. But obviously the leadership is controlled by who the mayor is, right? So, you know, some of you allowed yourselves in the last 12 years to be used and abused and weaken the profession and leave New York City vulnerable to a terrorist attack. Imagine on 9/12/2001, me turning around and saying, you know, I just wanted to couple the department's counterterrorism resources from First Amendment activities. I don't believe we need counterterrorism at protests. Imagine if I said that as the mayor on 9/12/2001. The nation would stop and halt. There would be screaming. There would be protesting. The police unions would be up in arms. The mayor of New York City has said this multiple times. He's doubled down that he is going to disband the SRG. The police commissioner, the deputy commissioner of counterterrorism, and the police unions have not said a word about this. This is the most dangerous rhetoric and the most dangerous reality we've ever faced. You know, I put up a clip of Jessica Tisch and Rebecca Weiner, and I said this is the scariest 3 minutes of television that you're probably going to watch in 2026. I just want to play it now because it really is. It's disturbing to me. I think it's about 3 minutes. Well, maybe we'll stop it, but I just cannot believe. You know, you want to play the perception game about the crime numbers, and I told you before, like, to me, when you're before, you know, the people like, oh, you guys always fudge numbers. Yeah, we did, but we never did it to this level, and we never did it where we were leaving bad actors out on the street, which is what they're doing now. The fudging of numbers always happened, but the thing in the past was they weren't looking to strip all of the authority from the police department, and they weren't using it to continue down this path, this pro-criminal, anti-cop, anti-victim path of legislation that's being put out. And so now they're using you, who are out there, using your own good name, violating your own integrity and your own morality, dishonoring your profession, your oath, and your oath before God, and they're using you to further their narrative. Look, we took all this stuff away from the police. We put all these stupid rules into place, and New York City is the safest it's ever been. So these people don't know what they're talking about, and they used you to do it. And it's the same thing that's happening here. They're using you They're using you getting lucky here and you not getting killed here and you not dying here as a cause to where there is going to be a terrorist attack because of this incompetent response. And it's going to be all of you celebrating it, that the blood is going to drip down all of your fingers because you're not watching, you're not listening, you're not thinking, you're not stepping back from the media narrative, from the fancy Twitter, from the fancy Twitter post that like, oh, everything's great. Chief Edwards is a great guy. He saved us. Chief Edwards for mayor, Chief Edwards for police commissioner, Chief Edwards for retraining at the academy to learn how to actually supervise a protest. Chief Edwards for BMOC is what I'm saying. Bring him back to Sergeant BMOC where he can learn how to be a supervisor and make decisions and understand that things are going to fall on his shoulders. Chief Edwards to understand that he almost got thousands of people killed at his protest because he wanted to play politics and he wanted to put optics ahead of innocent life. That's what I'm saying here. I'm not celebrating Chief Edwards. I'm not celebrating Sergeant Navarro. This is a complete, utter failure. The fact is the cops are reactive. The NYPD is reactive. It's a trained posture from the leadership. We used to call them de Blasio cops. Now they're Adams cops. They're de Blasio and Adams cops. That's what it is. This is the department's response to crime went from being proactive to reactive. And what we're hearing here is the department's response to terrorism is we instead of having proactive counterterrorism measures, we're going to be reactive to terrorist attacks. I don't understand where you guys are. Like, I know you're listening to this right now, the unions. I don't understand where you are. Believe me, I'm going to keep screaming from the mountaintops. It's absolutely disgusting. Listen to what
Tish, and I think also for Commissioner Weiner, what was the assessment of this event in the days leading up to it in terms of your concerns, A and B? What role did SRG play? Were they there in a primary capacity or in a backup capacity?
So we had been planning for this protest for several days. Whenever there is both a protest and a counter-protest, that's something that the NYPD plans for very deliberately to avoid confrontations and for all of the other reasons you might expect. So this was no different, and there had been very thoughtful preparation for this event due to the combined protest, counter-protest, and the location.
And I can just answer the question about SRG. SRG was in the area of the protest. They were there on in a backup capacity. We often have SRG around in an area if we think that it has the potential to get heated. So they were there. They were brought in after mayhem, as soon as mayhem ensued.
So if you listen to that, Rebecca Weiner says, oh, no, we did a great job at preparing for this. We knew it was going to be there, so we prepared for several days, and that was the plan you came up with. Like, that was the plan you came up with, and you're patting yourself on the back. And Jessica Tisch clearly doesn't trust the people she has appointed to run intelligence and counterterrorism, Rebecca Weiner, because she has to jump in and say, well, they were in the area, SRG. Oh. So they weren't assigned there then. They were in the area. You know who else was in the area? Everybody else in the New York City Police Department. What about the FBI? Oh, they were in the area. What about Joint Terrorism Task Force? Oh, yeah, they were in the area. Did you have undercovers there? Yeah, they were in the area. That's what I used to tell my boss if something happened where my guys were supposed to be. Oh, boy, they were in the area. Oh, so and you know what a sharp boss would say? Oh, so they were in New York City at work? Where were they exactly? Now, I don't want to hear where in the area they were. Where were they? Why weren't they there? Right? And so here you hear it. You hear the arrogance and you hear them putting the optics and the politics ahead of innocent life. So this was the first scariest minute. And I'll show you the next part when it comes back around to me. But I was flabbergasted watching this. I really was. And again, Zohran Mamdani, the failed rapper, Nepo baby, nowhere to be found because he doesn't know what he's talking about. And yet these people are going to allow themselves to be used like hand puppets.
Yeah. Well, SRG in the area sounds like when when we're going to get pizza and two commands away, and we say, yeah, we're gonna be in the area of the 8-4. We're actually gonna be on all the way on Atlantic Avenue having pizza. Yeah. So sometimes in the 7-7 on Saturdays we have a down day where we go eat. But what to what Juju said, what Juju, we're not jealous of the chief, okay? You know, we're just pointing out that again the narratives that we're being told aren't factual, you know, and the fact that they're not telling us a factual narrative is a problem, because if you fail to learn from the mistakes of the past, you're doomed to repeat it again. And if you fail to correctly analyze what mistakes were made in that day, and to openly say, you know, we made some mistakes, we need to do better next time. If you don't acknowledge that, then you're more than likely going to repeat it again. And if this repeats again, people may die, and that is a massive problem. In fact, if these bomb makers weren't inept, the chief and Sergeant Navarro would have been dead. Okay, and this would have been a whole lot different. We would have been planning, the job would have been planning their funerals right now. So that's not good for anybody, right? And again, I think part of the reason why cops are reactive now is because the people in charge are people who didn't do the work themselves, and people who were more concerned with not getting in trouble and not putting themselves out there. So that sort of behavior trickles down, and the job sees, and the cops see that, hey, if I put my neck out there, I'm going to get in trouble. Why should I do that when I could do the bare minimum, maybe take a couple tests, and one day I'll get to be chief too, you know? And again, the contrast is pretty crazy, okay? Because these are Grant's collars. So Grant is a very active cop, okay? And you know, I don't have that photo that John put up there again, but I can bet you that if he was in that area, now I'm speculating, but I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure if he was in that area, he might have reacted a lot faster to those two guys. And I'm saying that because if you watch the video where he tackles the perp, he was clearly watching the perp, because he runs out ahead of everybody and is already waiting for the perp. So you have a guy, and this again goes back to being an active cop and being able to recognize things, certain behaviors ahead of time, because you have experience stopping guys like that before. Okay, so and again, you get that eagle eye that comes with hands-on and repetition, and you know, the more time you're spending doing that, the basic job, is the better you get at it. So this is why it's very important that the people at the top have that experience. And when you know, I had great bosses when I was a cop, you know, and most of my bosses were active cops when they were cops, and they come to expect a certain behavior from you, a certain level of activity, and you to be basically like them. And what was great about that is because they were active cops, they knew to let me be an active cop myself and to give me that room. And what I found was that when we change bosses and we'd have a new boss come in, and that boss wasn't a collar guy, he doesn't have a lot of arrests, what tends to happen is that boss himself didn't give you any sort of room to breathe. Okay, he would always scrutinize you. He would always you know, there'd be a lot of White Sox enforcement, and again, that's because that boss wasn't an active cop. Okay, so it changes the entire dynamic when your boss wasn't an active cop when he was a cop. And this is what I believe we're seeing right now. We're seeing that sort of behavior trickle down to the cops on the ground. And one more thing, John said the unions aren't saying anything. Well, the SBA is saying something, and they're going along with the narrative. Okay, and the other unions, I haven't seen anything on their Twitter, and I don't know why Pat Hendry hasn't said anything either. You know, you're very silent there, Pat. You know, that behavior we're seeing with this job is very demoralizing to active cops out there.
Spot on, brother. Well said. I just want to say, in my opinion, I think that I'm calling for Police Officer Polgarin to be promoted to detective 3rd grade. So I think that we get a lot of people that get promoted from the most ridiculous things, for being someone's chauffeur. I think that Officer Polgarin is an outlier right now. See that picture right now? He's an outlier right now, because we talked about the NYPD not having the same response that they had before. But clearly, Officer Polgarin, if you're watching or someone you know is watching this, I want to say I'm calling for you to get promoted right now. So Jessica Tish, I know you watch this. Promote Officer Polgarin, because he's an outlier right now in the NYPD. He saw those behavioral indicators. He saw what did not fit the baseline. He went for the target and took him down. Here's someone clearly, you don't have to pull up his arrest record. You don't have to tell me what kind of person he is. I don't even need to speak to who he works with. I know by his reaction, by the way he targeted that subject, that he's someone that's out there doing the job. He's an outlier. So Officer Polgarin, shout out to you. If anyone should be getting recognition right now, it's you, and I want to see you get promoted. So I'm calling for Officer Polgarin to be promoted to detective based on merit. And I hope that our friends and listeners back me up on this. You should be promoted. Outstanding job. Now, with that being said, I want to pull up this picture again, because here is my problem. My problem is with Mike LaPetri. That's my problem, because here's someone who has years of valuable experience doing police work. And LaPetri, that's why I say he's a jellyfish. He knows damn well that was an epic fail. He knows damn well we needed SRG there. He knows damn well that you needed specialized resources. He knows what's necessary for a planned event, because he's coordinated them himself. He has the experience, he has the knowledge, but instead, self-serving, happened to be chief of department the entire time that we had a corrupt administration under Eric Adams, the appearance of impropriety, the failed excessive amount of overtime. LaPetri didn't say a word. He didn't say a word. He was complicit. To me, a complete coward. He hasn't said a word. He's standing there, not saying a word. He hasn't said a word, and he knows damn well this is a failure. To me, he's a problem. That's who my biggest gripe is with. Jessica Tish, she's a billionaire heiress that has no business being there, but she is. Rebecca Weiner has no idea about police work, but Mike LaPetri, he knows damn well he's the one with the knowledge, experience, and he's an intelligent man, and he should be actually outspoken about the atrocity that happened. He should be saying this is a failure and what we need to do in place, but instead, he put his tail between his legs, and that's why he's a jellyfish. So put a ball gag on him. He should be wearing a ball gag right now, because that's who I'm disappointed with. I hope you agree with me, John and Marlon, because if anyone I'm angry with, it's Mike LaPetri.
Look, I think, you know, again, I think Mike LaPetri just symbolizes every castrated chief in the NYPD now, every male that willingly neutered themselves. You know, I think that he's just a symbol of them. You know, it was John Shell. Now John Shell came out and he's trying to sew them back on, but slowly sew them back on too, because, you know, let's not, you know, I'm not going to get crazy on his criticism of him. I mean, look, the real thing is this, like law enforcement nationally, but in especially in New York City, you know, for years there was a push to civilianize police, right? And, you know, the rank and file cops thought they were talking about them. Oh, we're going to civilianize the police department. Yeah, the police department's been civilianized heavily. It's been heavily civilianized in leadership. The people who really control the strings in policing right now in the NYPD are white women of privilege. Most of them come from the Midwest. We have a billionaire heiress running the NYPD. They fancy themselves, you know, they go to these conferences. They're called leaders without badges. And it's all women with this leftist mindset. Oh, I'm Harvard, I'm Harvard magna cum laude. I'm this, I'm that. And they never wore a uniform. They have no idea about the reality. You know, I posted a article from Rebecca when she was like the assistant commissioner or something of counterterrorism at the time. And she was like basically talking about white supremacy and how COVID was fueling white supremacy, you know, and that was when she was appointed. That's what she said she was going to fight. Imagine being the deputy commissioner of intelligence and counterterrorism in New York City and actually thinking that you could find white supremacy in New York City. I mean, if she did, she should be a gold digger because she should go to the mines in Colorado and see if she could pull gold. Because I mean, she'd definitely have a better chance of getting gold in Colorado than she would finding white supremacy in New York City. They literally had to fly in a crisis actor to have one form of white supremacy. The first form of white supremacy that she had in her entire 17 years of working for the New York City Police Department was a joke. Came from a guy who was just looking to incite violence. So do I blame Mike LaPetri? Yeah, I blame Mike LaPetri. I blame Chief Aaron Edwards. I blame John Schell. I blame Terry Monahan. I blame all of these. I blame Dermot Shea. I blame Ed Caban. I blame Keechant Sewell. I blame Tom Donlin. I blame them all. I blame anyone who's been at the top and held any of these positions because they've been so afraid and so silent to talk about what's actually happening in policing. And even now, they're afraid and silent to scream from the hills that New York City is the #1 terrorist target in the world. It's not if, but when we have another terrorist attack. And we're leaving the NYPD completely unprepared because we have moron lieutenants like Juju in here who's saying this was a great day for the NYPD. We should be celebrating it. But instead, this podcast hates the NYPD. That's a lieutenant in the New York City Police Department. We should be celebrating that hundreds of people almost got blown up and we left our officers wide open to acts of violence and terrorism because we're too afraid. We're too afraid to push back at a mayor, and we're too afraid to push back at leftist politicians who believe that counterterrorism has no business at a protest. That's what we should be celebrating. We should be celebrating failure and cowardice. Is that what you're telling us we should be celebrating? I'm flabbergasted that you're a lieutenant, dude. I really am. It's absolute cowards that are the problem. It's funny. I was reading. It's actually like a little Irish history, but I was reading about this. The Archbishop in New York City in the 1800s, Dagger John was his name, right? And that was his nickname, Dagger John. And at the time, there was like this anti-Catholic movement in the city, and not only in the city, but across the entire country, because, it was basically Protestants were running the country at the time and running New York City, right? And so there was this entire anti-Catholic movement. There was a point where all of these churches were beginning to burn down. And so Dagger John, the Archbishop, mind you, the Archbishop of New York City, so a man of the cloth, he says he wants New York City elected officials to protect Catholic churches at the time. And he says, look, this is going to come here. We already have it here. We have Catholics being beat up here. Your police are nowhere in our neighborhoods because we're poor immigrants. They're nowhere to be found, and like his flock basically at the time was poor immigrant Irish. Right. And so he's like, my people are being assaulted. I'm trying to build St. Patrick's Cathedral, the old one on Mulberry Street. And, I'm being told they're going to burn it down and nobody's helping me. So he's like, they're not doing anything. Right. So exactly what's happening right now. We're sitting here telling you New York City is wide open to a terrorist attack and no one's saying a word, unlike in the 1800s when Dagger John was saying, this is coming here. This is unacceptable. So what he does is, not only does he push back at the narrative out there in the media, push back against the Roman Catholic Church, push back against the politics, pushes back against everything. He tells his parishioners to be armed, and they set up basically their own guards. And he warns New York City. He said, if any of my churches burn, we're going to burn New York City to the ground. We're going to burn New York City to the ground because I'm sitting here telling you that this is going to come here, and you better do the right thing. And what did New York City do as a result of that? They put cops in these immigrant neighborhoods and protected their churches. And then Dagger John and his Irish laborers and dock workers pulled back, and there was no violence and there was no riots, and we moved forward. What we're saying here is all the chiefs in the NYPD, the leadership of the NYPD, the leadership without the badges in the NYPD, the liberal white women, the highly educated liberal white women who have never wore a uniform, they should be screaming from the mountaintop that we're going to reverse our protest posture. Counterterrorism needs to be both in plain clothes and in uniform, at these protests. We need to go back to overstaffing these protests. They need to do it and do the workarounds for that protest settlement agreement. And they need to fight with Letitia James, Eric Adams, Ed Caban, the New York Civil Liberties Union, everybody else that agreed to that. And they need to rip that document from New York City history and shame it. Because if not, blood is on all your hands. Zohran Mamdani, Eric Adams, Jessica Tisch, Edward Caban. Anyone who touched this document, anyone who operates under it as a supervisor and can change it and does it, we need to be screaming from the mountaintops right now. That's what we're doing. This is not a moment of celebration. It's not. Let's go further into the video. This is what I'm talking about here. This was the hearing Rebecca say that, we did a great job at planning when they did a piss poor job at planning. They actually, it was the worst job I ever seen, ever. So I'm like, I don't even care like what she had to say about that. This was the scariest part of this press conference. Here it is right here.
Our commanders on the ground will make the assessment about when to call in SRG. But certainly with this protest, we did have SRG on standby and prepared because we thought it had.
Just so you know, you keep hearing the clacking through the whole thing. That's her nervous tick hitting the thing. Just so you guys know, it's not anything with a mic. She's hitting the thing saying, we had them on standby. Edwards could have called them in, but he waited till we had a terrorist attack first, and then he called them in. So, but that's what you're hearing. You're hearing her nerves as she's talking about this.
The ability to get interesting, given who was there.
Thank you. Sorry. You got it. Commissioner, Joe Marino, New York Post. Commissioner, are you looking at changing your posture towards policing protests, given the fact these two individuals were not known to you? And is it causing you to reassess like additional resources you may need from an intelligence or patrol standpoint?
So as you know, the NYPD remains on heightened alert. We really have been on heightened alert since the hostilities in Iran broke out about 1 week ago, which means extra counterterrorism deployments, heavy weapons teams, drones, aviation. This department, in particular, our intelligence and counterterrorism unit and teams have been out there in full force for the past week, as they are anytime something happens either in the city or around the world that we feel we need to deploy for. Look, this incident did occur at a protest, but it didn't have to have occurred at a protest. So this doesn't change our posture specifically on protests. The NYPD has been policing protests and ensuring New Yorkers' ability to exercise their First Amendment rights safely and lawfully for decades, but never more so, frankly, than over the past 2.5 years, where we have just seen a huge increase in the number of protests, and our officers, both our community affairs officers, our patrol officers, and our SRG officers are well trained and certainly well practiced at doing so.
So we're not going to change anything we did at the protest because, terrorism doesn't have to happen at a protest. And just because we had a terrorist act happen at a protest and we didn't staff counterterrorism at that protest, we understaffed it, and we kept into this reactive response to terrorism at protest, we're just going to keep going and hope that we get lucky again. She sat there and said, you're on heightened alert for Iran. So that's what you decided to put out? You're on heightened alert, but that's the response you decided to have at a protest that you knew violence was going to occur, at a mass gathering, which is a soft target for terrorism. That's the response you had to occur. That's the response you guys put together, being in heightened alert. Like it did. And oh, yeah. But, we're just going to do it again, right? Could you imagine being a sergeant and explaining this to your lieutenant or your CO? Could you imagine this was, you were running that protest. You put this together. But it's good. Look, we're on heightened alert. Oh, you're on heightened alert. So what'd you do? Oh, but not for protest though. you know, we're fighting terrorism elsewhere because they don't happen at protests. Because the mayor said, you know, we got to decouple counterterrorism from protests. Oh, yeah, that's what happened. All right, yeah, fired. Like this is scary. I'm telling you, this was the scariest 3 minutes of television I ever watched. I was like, wow. How far we have fallen. Bring back those brash, smelly, stinking old men who police the streets in New York City and understand what is happening out in the streets and understand that they have hundreds of thousands of lives in just a given small section of New York City that they are responsible. Bring those guys back, because I don't know where they are. I don't see any of them anywhere.
Yeah, you know, in the beginning, yeah, Eric mentioned bringing the cops up on stage with Edwards, you know, and I'm gonna say I have to wonder if he was given instructions that you know, him and Sergeant Navarro to show up, and just them two. I'm sure that don't get me wrong, where we are critical of some of the stuff he said in those interviews, but I have to wonder, him being a borough commander, at least he knows that these are his people. And in the case of Grant, I think Grant works for the equivalent of the borough anti-crime, right? I think it's about borough public safety. You know, again, it's just another of those rebrands of anti-crime, except now they're in some sort of modified uniform, right? I have to wonder if at some point he said, hey, can I bring up my guys too? And maybe he was told, no, it's just you and Sergeant Navarro. So if, especially now that he's getting a lot of pushback and a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of people repost the picture asking, what about the cop who tackled the perp? I'm sure now that he's getting a lot of smoke that he's thought of, hey, you know what, can I bring up my guys? Can, you know, just once? So I have to wonder if he's been given instructions, right? And the thing is, if he can't even do that, what hope does a commander have of calling an audible on scene or making a decision that, like bringing a SRG or, you know, for the protest? I have to wonder if, again, just how much decision making does a commanding officer, including a borough commander, have these days? Because again, if you have that autonomy, you're probably not going to be a very young borough commander, okay? Because that entire skill set takes time, again. And when you're young, you're very inexperienced. It's the equivalent of putting a rookie in an anti-crime unit. Now you may have an extraordinary rookie, and yes, I've seen those. We had one in the 7-7. He's a sergeant now. He knows who he is. He was a great cop. I've mentioned him before. But more than likely, you're putting somebody inexperienced in a position where they're not ready for it yet. Okay. So again, I'm wondering here, you know, just how much decision making does a chief have in this case?
Let me put some things into perspective, right? A colonel in the military, whether it's the Army or the Marine Corps, for instance, who's in charge of a brigade is normally about 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers. So I just want to put this into perspective. 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers, a colonel, that's a high-ranking member of the military, where it takes years of experience. So to me, an assistant chief, you have even more responsibility than a colonel in the military who's responsible for 3,000 to 5,000 men. We're talking about assistant chief who could easily be in charge of 20 to 25,000 police officers, depending on the event, such as Times Square during New Year's Eve, or such as a protest like this one, where you're in charge of more police officers than a brigade. That takes years of experience, not someone that is elevated by rocket fuel from 7 years from captain to assistant chief. This is an epic fail. This is not about jealousy about him ranking up. That is way too early, and that is a disservice to the residents of New York City, and not just New York City, the entire world, because this is a hub of terrorism, New York City. This is a hub of terrorism, and this is a hub of tourism. So it's a recipe for disaster. We need people with experience. It's not necessarily that they have to be old, but they have to be experienced. They have to be weathered. They have to be put in positions that they've been there before and really understand the nomenclature of what they're faced against. And I want to go back to what you said, John. And I have my biggest gripe and biggest disappointment is with Mike LaPetri. Why? Because you mentioned Monahan. We talk about O'Neill. We talk about Caban. I think these were all idiots that were elevated who should never been in the positions that they were in. Where Mike LaPetri, in my opinion, he's intelligent. He was a cop. He knows the job. He knows police work. But he shut his mouth and replaced it for a ball gag, and he's standing there and eating this up and not say a word. And that's why I have a problem, because he knows damn well that man has to sleep at night, and he knows damn well this is not how you do proper police work, because he's intelligent. He knows how this works, but he replaced intelligence for cowardice because he'd rather be in that position to be the chief of department and stay silent and allow potential thousands of people to die because you won't speak up, because he's the only one in that upper echelon that knows what he's doing right now. But that's an epic fail right now because he's not saying a word. John, I'm not a religious man, but you and I spoke about this. Cowardice is worse than the murderer. Cowardice is worse than the rapist. Cowardice is worse than people committing criminal acts according to the Bible. And to my opinion, Mike LaPetri being complicit and standing and not saying a word is far worse than what Jessica Tisch and Rebecca Weiner is doing, because the two of them have no idea what they're doing, right? They're just elites that happen to be in this position. But Mike LaPetri is being wagged around like a dog, and he's not saying a damn word. And that's why I have a problem with him. I have a problem with him because he's intelligent. He knows the job. And to me, he's failing us because he's not saying a word. That goes against all morality. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how you stand there, because you know police work. You know it. But instead, it's more important. You love being the chief of the department. You love being in this position that you won't say a word. But how about loving the people? How about loving your job? And remember, go back to the time you took an oath. It was to protect people, not to protect yourself and think about yourself. So put others before you put yourself. That's real law enforcement professionals. So yeah, I have a problem with him the most.
Well, look, I definitely think it's like a really grave sin to like the people that you claim that you care about, and to yourself and to your morality, when you actually know what's going on and you don't say anything. And I agree with you. I think he knows everything that we're saying dead on accurate. And FYI, but here's the thing. So does everyone else. Every other public safety professional, every other talking head in the media right now knows everything what we're saying is dead accurate, and they're too ballless to say it for the same reasons Mike LaPetri is. Because, it's all about me. It's all about my money. Okay, so when there's another terrorist attack and people die, blood is on your hands too. You might get rewarded here on Earth, but guess what? You got a long eternity after that. So hopefully you don't believe in the afterlife. Hopefully you're right and I'm wrong, because but I don't think I am. I think you're gonna have a lot of answering to do. I think you're gonna have a lot of answering to do always. I really do. I really do. Over this past week or so, it's just it really came into to me that the truth has been really removed from society. People don't even know how to handle hearing it anymore. They can't even take hearing it anymore. They can't take, and it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you talk about. If you're actually breaking the media narrative and showing them the exact proof of it, you're the bad guy. The person that's lying to them, they love. They're like, no, it's good. This is safe. This is okay. This is what Twitter told me. This is what Benny Johnson told me. This is what Fox News told me. This is what CNN told me. You can't stop me from thinking. You can't open up my brain. If you open up my brain and make me actually see what's happening, I can't handle it. I've gotten so many texts, calls, emails, messages. Oh, you're too much, bro. You're brutal, you're harsh, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, dude, what am I saying that you don't agree with? What am I saying that you don't agree with? No, you're right. So why am I brutal? Why am I harsh? Why aren't you saying it? Why are you telling me I'm brutal and I'm harsh, but you agree with what I'm saying?
John, because you said out loud. You said out loud. That's what's saying.
We're not like when did we all become cucks that we're not allowed to talk in this country? When did law enforcement say, you know what, I'm going to willingly neuter myself? When did it happen?
Ball game.
I always point to the mandate, or I point to the knees, but I think it happened before that, dude. I just don't know the exact time when it happened, but there was a time when, you know, I listened to an interview with Sean Ryan the other day. And again, I don't love the guy, but I listened to him here and there. And he had a priest on. Guy's an exorcist. And they gloss over, like, they just gloss over. They're talking about the Antichrist and the mark of the beast. And they just completely gloss over COVID, right? And the guy says, you know, it's going to be big, though. It's not just going to be like a chip. It's not just going to be that. You're going to have to denounce Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what happened at COVID. That's kind of what happened when you took the knee. Now, again, you know, most people don't understand this. And I don't even think my wife understands this when I tell her, but like, or anybody else. I don't even think my priest understands it. I really don't. When I describe this to other people, I don't think they understand how I look at the world and how I perceive the world. And like, I personally believe that the thoughts in my head, my morality, my line, when I'm talking, that I am talking directly with God. I am talking directly with God. When I know something's wrong, it's not me that knows it's wrong. There is a higher being telling me, you know, you're better than that. You know what you need to do. It's me actually talking with God. And me violating my conscience at any point is me denouncing my God. Me going against that is me sinning, grave sins. So me seeing something like, I don't know, the city's wide open for a terrorist attack, and they're going to continue to leave us wide open, and potentially millions of people or thousands of people could die. Hundreds of my friends and loved ones could die. And if I don't say anything, I'm a coward. That to me isn't me saying that, oh, that's how I think about it. That's me thinking that that's my God telling me to say that. So, and I think, you know, people just like think that like you denouncing your conscience or your faith is like this small act that you could do for money, or you could do for fame, or you could do to get along with the world so people like you, or you'll get more clicks on the internet, or make your followers happy, or you know, you'll keep your white liberal women masters happy. That is the ultimate sin, in my opinion. And I honestly, I think that these people don't just denounce their faith and denounce their conscience once or twice. I think they do it every single day, multiple times a day. And you know the old saying, like the valiant a coward dies many times before his death, but the valiant dies but once. I think these people die every single day. Every single day they commit grave sins against their own morality and against their own conscience. And if they are people of faith, they do it against their own faith, whether they're Christian, Catholic, Muslim, whatever they believe, whoever their God is. I think they do it day in and day out. And it's absolutely disgusting to me, dude. Like, so I can't even just, I agree with you. I think that LePetri is worse than them because he knows, and we know he knows, but he's just like all of them, which is it's disgusting to me, dude. It's like, honestly, and then for us to sit here and tell the truth, it's like, you guys are crazy. I can't believe you said that. It's like, oh yeah, oh, it's so horrible. So I can't believe you go to work every day and don't.
Open Carrier 54 said LePetri could have ran that presser by himself. That's the point. He could run that by himself. He knows damn well it should be a place. You know, it's a compliment. I think he's intelligent. I think that he knows the job. I think he was a real cop, and it bothers me. I ask myself, and how do you stand there and just allow this? Is it really that important to be chief of department? Is these stars really more important? Because you listen, John, I always told you I'm not a religious person, but when Derek was dying, I pray to God, and I don't understand how LePetri lays down at night knowing damn well that this is all wrong. And he doesn't say a word about it because he knows. Listen, O'Neill, to me, he was an idiot. Monahan, they were all idiots. But here's someone that actually knows what he's doing. How does he sleep at night? I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe he does die every day in his own sleep, because how do you allow this? You know, it goes against every legitimate form of police work that's necessary and applicable. And you know that Edwards should not have been promoted within 7 years by rocket fuel. It's an epic fail. And he knows it. He stands and doesn't say a word. Doesn't say a word the entire time what happened, the excessive overtime with the police department. Didn't say a word about John Shell being so unprofessional on social media. Didn't say a word about Kaz Daughtry. Doesn't say anything. So I don't know. Maybe this does eat him up. It would eat me up.
Well, you know, if he says anything, he ruins his chances of getting a gig in retirement on Wall Street. If he speaks out against his masters, which are the academics and these liberal people, he ruins his
Is that more important than having a clear conscience? Is that more important than having a clear? Apparently, right?
Yeah, apparently. Look at these guys will sell their soul because again, those opportunities, you know. Look at Shea, you know. That guy literally sold his soul. And you sold your soul if you forced thousands of men to get that BS, okay? That should have been the hill you died on as a commander. Imagine you're in a war and the general says, you know, your general cripples your own troops. You know, it's absurd. You know, it's absurd. But he did it, and now he's making what, $500,000? You know, so I guess he sleeps well, either not caring what, you know. But you know, I saw a comment from KB. KB said he said Pullgren is a street cop, and basically he doesn't think Pullgren cares about it. And I have to agree with you, KB. He probably doesn't. But I should have gotten that off screen. You know, but right, this is what Tish. This is at the graduation ceremony on I believe it was Monday or Tuesday, and Tish brought up the chief and the sergeant. Right, Pullgren is a street cop, and he probably doesn't care about any of this. But you as the PC need to inspire these young cops to go out there and be the best cop they can be. Okay, especially you're at the graduation, and I'm seeing some of these cops in the graduation ceremony that look like they need a couple more days in the gym over there. Okay, tangent. And if you're coming out the academy looking like that, what's going to happen 5 years on when you're working like 6 days a week and you know you're eating crap in the precincts? What's going to happen? But you as a PC need to inspire these new guys to go out there and become great cops. And how better than to bring a Pullgren there and to give him his gold shield in front of him. Let them know this officer was a cop yesterday. He was a cop an hour ago, and he's a detective now because he did what he was the best cop he could have been on that day. Okay, and you need to do the same out there. And we're in a meritocratic agency, and the cream rises to the top. And we want you all to be the best cop that you can be so that you can be like him. Okay, instead of bringing on a chief and a sergeant. Now, the work of, I was never a supervisor, but the job as a supervisor is tough. Yeah, you know, but the better, the more inspired your guys are to go out there and get the job done, is the better you look, and you will get rewarded if you could inspire them to be the best cops that they can be.
Yeah, you know what, Marlon, I totally approve that message. That's what I've been saying. I'm calling for Officer Pullgren to get promoted because there's no doubt about it. He's an outlier. He's out there doing his job. Excuse me, but a couple of people in chat here, some of our friends and listeners said the reason they didn't put him up is because of his CCRBs. Yes, I saw some of his CCRBs. That means he's a damn good cop. So you know what, Pullgren, wear those CCRBs as a badge of honor because you're out there doing your cop. Clearly, you're an outlier. Could you just imagine the impact? That is a great idea, Marlon. You're spot on. If they brought up Officer Pullgren at the police academy, you would get these cops fired up and promoted him right there and said, look, he jumped into action and we promoted him, right, based on merit for being the best cop he could be on that day. On that day, he saw the target, took him down, and we don't know. Maybe there was a tertiary device and he saved thousands of lives. Great job. And promote him right there. Those recruits will be fired up. They'd be fired up, and they would be telling their friends, become an NYPD cop, and their friends would be telling their friends. There's no better recruitment tool than word of mouth. Seeing someone get promoted on stage for doing his job. So to you, Officer Pullgren, I do think you will get promoted. We're going to keep screaming your name until you do. I want to see you get pinned, detective. So congratulations to you if that happens, but it's well deserved. And there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure he doesn't care about being on stage. He probably wants to just be out there the next day and go out there and keep doing his job. And that's the reality, right? He doesn't need the recognition because I'm sure his fellow cops are already recognizing him already. I'm sure his supervisors know who he is. And I know there's other outliers out there, just like Officer Bulgarin, that police the streets every day. Unfortunately, it's not a majority as it used to be, but there are outliers out there, and they need to be recognized for the good job that they do because it's impactful. It's impactful for the other cops out there. It's impactful for the recruits. You want to talk about a powerful recruiting tool? That's a powerful recruiting tool that, hey, we saw an officer in action, and stop a terrorist from deploying another potential IED device and promoting him right on the spot. That's what we should see, based on complete merit, not based on race, not based on your sexual orientation, but clearly just based on merit. So I wish we could see that more. I think it's a fantastic idea. So I think the next time they have a press conference, they should do it right at the press conference in front of the entire world, in front of all the media, promote him right there. So I hope something like that happens.
Yeah. People, you can't underestimate the power of giving your guys like a attaboy. I remember we had we had a search warrant where we got a cop stolen gun back, and it was like a very busy week. We were exhausted on Saturday, but the CO comes in and he goes, "You guys did a great job that week." And we don't care about any of that, but just the fact that the CO was like, "You guys did a good job." It's like, when you're exhausted, it kind of re-energizes you a bit, and you're ready to go again. You're ready to crush the next week. So it's great to motivate these young guys, especially when, again, we're seeing a lot of young guys just stand back and do nothing, or just do the bare minimum, and it's not being the best cop they could be. Like the example of what happened in Times Square. You want to avoid doing. You want to have less of that and more of Grant. Okay, and not acknowledging Grant is that contributes to more of what happened in Times Square. Guys feeling demoralized and not doing the best job they can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of things are around that. I've got a lot of calls and messages about Grant and about the other cops as well, and a lot of people said, look, he just doesn't fit the narrative. He's just not. He's a white cop. The DEI movement is still pushing. Liberal white women. They pretend to love black people. And they pretend to know more about how black people's lives are than black people know about.
True.
But it could be that. It could be that, but I don't really know what it is, and it could 100% be the fact that he has his CCRBs. I think he's got like 41 CCRBs, 10 substantiations, and again, we showed over and over again that the Civilian Complaint Review Board is reverse engineering investigations, and they're targeting cops. And I know firsthand that their investigations are inept. I was the CCRB liaison for about a year. I fought often with them nearly every single day. Their investigations are absolutely ridiculous. We went through Eric's CCRBs. We showed you just how they go to use probable cause. And so it's not like really a question if CCRBs are relevant. For those of you in the public, just think about this. Like, Officer Pulligren cackled that terrorist. If he would have yelled at him and didn't touch him and put him in handcuffs, that terrorist is free to file a civilian complaint against Officer Pulligren. There's absolutely nothing that anyone could do about it. People on the scene that day, while they were arresting the terrorist, was saying, "Leave them alone. What's your name? What's your number?" And they were doing that because they were going to file civilian complaints against the officers, not realizing that that was a terrorist that they had, and the guy just threw a bomb and almost blew them up. So I just want you to understand that, like, civilian complaint review, CCRBs happen. If you look at the areas and where they happen, if you look solely, there is a demographic concern there. and that should be highlighted as well. Officers that work in the Bronx, particularly white officers, have a higher rate of CCRBs than officers that don't. Officers that work in Brooklyn North, particularly white officers, have a higher CCRB rate than those that don't. Officers that work in Manhattan North, white officers, have a higher CCRB rate than those that don't. And that is because CCRB is in those precincts, in those neighborhoods, and they're literally going into high schools and junior high schools and pushing people to file civilian complaints. They're not doing a great job of community service. They're actually inflaming the divide between police and community more than they're actually helping it. And most of these CCRBs are completely frivolous. So that's one thing I just want you to think of. So it could be the reason that they don't put Grant Polligren up there for his CCRBs. But like both of you alluded to, the number one recruiter in the NYPD is the rank and file of the NYPD, right? The morale of the NYPD. They're the people that are going to get you, the people in their neighborhood, their friends' kids, their kids. They're going to push the message of the NYPD. They're the number one recruiter. They always will be. And, what you're doing is you're keeping morale low and you're shunning them by not recognizing the achievements of those officers. And I'll say it clear as day. To me, I believe it's complete stolen valor by Chief Edwards and his sergeant for not recognizing these people. I don't care. I don't care what the police commissioner told you. I don't care what anyone. You could politely and gently suggest it in these interviews. I'm not going to say that they 100% didn't, because clearly you saw that New York 1 clip, right? They put me on for 1 second. I think I probably had about a 15, 20-minute conversation. So I'm not saying that they didn't, but I would make it a point that they wouldn't even be able to clip it out, because I would keep saying it and saying it and saying it, and I would keep acknowledging the work of the people who work below me. That's what even just a basic sergeant would do, just a sergeant. Like you acknowledge the work of your guys, and for a police commissioner to do it really shows how little she knows about policing. So regardless if Grant wants the acknowledgement or the community affairs cops that apprehended the other suspect that was running with a backpack, which could have been another IED, they deserve that acknowledgement. You're 100% right. They should have promoted them. That would have sent a clear message to the rank and file. But instead, they sent a clear message to the rank and file that you're not welcome, that if you're a proactive cop and you get CCRBs, you're not really what we want. You're not really what this department wants. And what do you think that does to activity? What do you think that does to the performance of the rank and file? And, again, it's just, and this is why experience matters. And this is why people that have been out there in the street, in the grind for at least a decade, know what that feels like and what that is. Those are the people that should be put in power, not the people that are just getting brushed ahead. I don't care what it is. I don't care if they have 30 collars or 300. If they're running through the ranks, they're going to all these different details. Every year of their career, they're going something else. And you got a guy like Grant Polligren works his way through command, gets to, the Brooklyn, Manhattan North public safety team, and he's still out there on the grind, not being acknowledged. It's officers like him that make the wheel spin. It's officers, sergeants, and lieutenants that are actually the ones providing public safety. Not everybody else is just sitting there partying and taking all the credit for it.
Yeah. And the thing is, when guys like Grant are in the precinct every other day, when they're spending days in the precinct on collars, you have other guys who are just doing the bare minimum, and then they're running out the door. EOT, they're out the door, going to parties or whatever, enjoying their nights. But guys like Grant are stuck in a precinct on collars for 12, 13 hours repeatedly, okay? And now you're seeing what happens. The guy who ran out the door, okay, at EOT is the guy who's now the chief. And you have the guy who was trying to be the best cop that he could be and collaring people and spending days in a precinct, can't even get basic recognition for doing a job well done. Okay, what does that do to morale? Well, it gives you more cops who are just going to stand around and wait for orders to be told to be dictated to them. Okay, instead of guys who are going to make a proactive decision and put themselves out there. And just for Tish herself, this is the problem with having a PC that doesn't have that experience, by the way. Okay, because she doesn't understand how that affects morale. And just for your sake, Tish, you need more guys who are not standing around waiting to be told to do something. Okay, because again, you'll get incidents like what happened in Times Square. And if not for your control over the media, and clearly she has a control over the media, because I'll point out that where is it, that her family has for decades has had a lot of influence over media, in particular her grandfather, who again started a police foundation in the 70s, and he owned CBS for well over a decade. Well, he was the CEO and chairman of the board and majority shareholder for over a decade. Okay, and Steve Tisch has a very oversized influence over Hollywood. Okay, and you can see the movies that his production were responsible for. Some big name movies, Risky Business and American History X. And so her family has influence over the media, and that her dad and her uncle, I've pointed out before, are also on the Council of Foreign Relations, again, which has a lot of the influence over American industries. Okay, they all sit together and talk. Picking up the phone and calling the guy who runs ABC News or CBS News or the NY Post is just a matter of finding their phone number in your phone. Okay, because they are all sitting together and all sharing numbers. So she has influence over the media. If not for that influence of the media, okay, what happened in Times Square could have been a massive embarrassment for the job. Okay, and this is why you don't want that. You want more of guys who are going to take proactive measure. So
I also think that they have the ability to shut down a podcast episode. Excuse me. I mean, I'm sure with the click of a phone call, they could shut down a podcast episode. I wonder if that's ever happened. So I want to read out a comment here from one of our friends and listeners, Detective Nolan 63. What's up, brother? He says this incident has now made Grant M. Polgarin a marked man for all the wrong reasons. Fucking disgrace. Now, I actually want to read that out because I actually think you're right. Because there's no doubt in my mind about the demographics. And there's no doubt in my mind that Officer Polgarin was not put in the spotlight because of his CCRB record. But I tell you what, CCRB is like that poisonous apple, right? For the residents there that want to get back because they hate cops, they bite into it, tastes good. But the reality is every time you make a complaint against a good cop, and a cop has to make a decision if they want to continue to do intrusive police work or stay on the job and retire, you're hurting the city because it's good cops like myself and John and Marlon that were out there kicking ass, and Officer Polgarin and the many other outliers that are out there that are actually keeping the streets safe. But also Polgarin has now made himself a target for CCRB because I'm sure CCRB is looking at this and like, wow, had this guy slip underneath our fingers, he's got 41 CCRBs. We have to pay close attention. He's now become a target for the CCRB. Instead of acknowledgement and appreciation and gratitude, it's far different. And I wouldn't be surprised if this terrorist makes a civilian complaint that is self-initiated or perpetuated and pushed by the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I don't put anything past them. Unfortunately, they are disgraceful. They have a total bias and disdain for policing that they put their bias and disdain before safety. There's no doubt in my mind. Absolutely disgusting people, disgusting investigations that go on at CCRB. The fact that we never get any pushback, real pushback from the leadership of the NYPD is absolutely terrible. CCRB is one of those poisonous factors that tears away at the fabric of law enforcement, especially the NYPD in New York City, tears away at good police officers like Polgarin. And there's no doubt in my mind, the NYPD has no choice. Polgarin has to get promoted. He has to. He has to get promoted for those actions. We need to shift focus from Chief Edwards and Sergeant Navarro from their idiot actions and shift focus to Officer Polgarin for taking down the perpetrator, for zeroing in and targeting the perpetrator, taking him down. Edwards, His leadership that day was a failure with 7 years experience from captain to chief. SRG, all necessary resources. We should have had more resources available. And then as the protest is tails down, as you get things under control, you can scale back from it. But you shouldn't scale back on the onset. You should be over-prepared, and you can always scale back from it while you're conducting that protest planned event. The NYPD was the best at it. Look how far we came. We were the best at controlling crowds. We were the best at planned events. There was no one like it. Anytime we ever had a president in town or any type of planned event, there was no one better than the NYPD. We always had more resources that were necessary. And as the incident was under control and we made observations and determinations, we could always scale back. But unfortunately, because of the protest settlement, and not really because of the protest settlement, and this particular incident, I blame Edwards and I blame the upper echelon of the police department because that they're self-serving and because that they're pandering to Zohran Mamdani, and as they did at Eric Adams in the past, that they're allowing their self-serving needs to override necessary police work. Because that protest settlement, while it is a hindrance, it still gives the FAA supervisor, which would be Chief Edwards, full power and autonomy to make decisions on what resources would need and be available. The only difference would be the documentation to articulable necessary information. But there's no doubt about it. All the documentation is there. It's very articulable. As John said, he's in Florida. I'm not anywhere in New York. And we can see it from where we are. Why can't you?
Yeah, Pat Donahue says DCPI is the media massager for the NYPD police commissioner. They trade scoops for favorable articles or to not publish hit pieces. I mean, it's so true, right? Like if you piss off the regime, currently the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information is Delaney Kempner. So if you piss off the media machine, you get no inside information. If you do, hey, you know, maybe this guy will leak some stuff to you that it's really coming from me. But if you make us mad, we won't. And then even just necessary news, regular news, you know, the current state of the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, they're literally bullying reporters, calling them up. This, like, you know, we know firsthand how many stories should have went out and became national that was squashed right in the halls of one police plaza. So, you know, the media is not even doing their job. They're being bullied by this machine. You know, so yeah, there is a huge influence. I mean, Bob Holden said it on Wednesday here. He told you about, you know, he was getting an article published about the crime auditing, about how little the NYPD audits and how high their failure rate is when they do those audits, and then they never go further. So every year, just let's take for example, every year of the Adams administration, crime was up. But every year of the Adams administration, they told you crime was down. And you know, like it's wild, man. Then they go do these small random sampling size audits, and they go out, and then, you know, end of the year when it's all said and done, they publish end of year our numbers are down. 3 months later, crime's way higher than what they told you it was. It's actually up. And so you know, Bob Holden's, like, his district was getting hit with a lot of crime, and he's like, I don't believe the crime numbers. Like, all of my constituents are complaining. I want to see how you audit crime. And instead of getting that data, which the NYPD has ready on file, like it's not like they have to put together something. They have the data ready for you. Instead of getting that, he got a nasty phone call from the police commissioner, and I think he said it was the Post, squashed the entire story. Where do you think that came from? Came from the police commissioner. How is the police commissioner in control of the media? I thought the media was there to hold government accountable. I didn't think the government was there to control the media. But now we have an apparatus where the government's controlling the media. You know, it's wild, dude. It's wild to watch, you know? And so, you know, I look, again, if people are talking shit, oh, you can't hop a barrier. Dude, I'll hop the barrier 8,000 times. I'll hop the barrier without ever even touching it. So I don't know what you people are talking about. You know, I really don't. I'll run up and jump on top. I'll put my foot on the barrier and jump over it. Like, I don't know what that was not an athletic feat. I mean, if it was for you, I highly suggest you guys start working out. I highly suggest you start working out. I mean, if you guys want me to shoot some videos for you, you want to see me run so you can see my, my muscles running and the sweat glistening off my forehead and my arms, I'll do it for you. But I mean, it's real weird, dude. Like, this is not this great athletic feat.
Johnny, you can start doing solo fitness videos.
I'll do solo fitness for Juju. You know, I'll wear a sweat headband for him. I'll wear high socks. I know he's into that and short
You know
shorts.
what? That could be a brand. Fitness for Juju. I like it.
You know, here's here's Chief Edwards, and I mean, again, I think again this really angers rank and file. You know, it's like, you know, it's not just us saying it, dude. That's all I gotta say. It's like, you know, this
We're just saying it out loud.
We're just saying it out loud, and the people on the job are really annoyed by this.
Just immediately begin running towards this threat, right? We see this happening. We see this device. We know we have to do something. I don't want that picture to be about me. I want it to be about the day. I want it to be about what we did. You know, I want that picture to be a reminder to New Yorkers that, you know, your cops, the members of the NYPD, you know, we're going to be relentless in pursuing justice.
It's just an everyday thing. Like we respond to dangerous situations. We handle a lot of different situations, and you know, sometimes you just don't think about it. You just do it.
Yeah, that's what cops do. Joining us now, our panel of former NYPD officers, former Chief John Schill, retired Lieutenant Joe Cardinelli, and Blue Lives Matter co-founder Joe and Patrice. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining the program. Chief, it's good seeing you in a gray suit. I'm used to you being in blues. Tell us about this.
You saying look good?
They're looking good, Chief.
Retirement
okay. Looks good on you. So tell me, you know these cops out here, they don't want the credit. They just wanted to go out there and do the job. What did you make of what happened?
Look, they take an oath when they graduate the academy to protect and serve, and that's what they did. Think about this. It's not a normal thing to run towards IEDs. And the chief, the sergeant, the cops, all those cops converged to save people. And it was a selfless act of bravery. They're all heroes. And thank God those IEDs did not explode, because they would have lost their lives. And that's what people have to understand.
Well, you know, I think like he's trying to warn, but he's not really flat out saying it. Like, this isn't a moment of celebration. This should be a moment. This should be a sobering moment of reflection, you know, and that's the reality of it, you know, and that's the only thing that we've really been saying here. You know, we need to change the protest posture. Absolutely. 100% right off the bat, right immediately. 2 terrorist attacks yesterday, 4 terrorist attacks in the week. We've never seen this level happening. You know, we're being told there's sleeper cells all over the country. What are we doing? Why are we not taking protests seriously?
Yeah. It's not just DCPI and the PC that are doing some narrative adjustment here. I think there are multiple parties that benefit from going along with the program and continuing the manufactured narrative of what actually happened. And again, there is absolutely a manufactured narrative here, okay? Because this was one of the things I saw on the 10th, that struck me. It's like, now there were a couple others, okay, but the usual social media influences that continuously they broadcast certain narratives, when they happen, and there's no deeper insight in their tweets. There's no, you can point out many times that there's somebody else, and I saw underneath a lot of their comments people were posting up the picture, but these guys were continuously towing the narrative, okay, right? But it's not just them, it's the news media itself that are kind of selectively talking about this incident, and I also wonder if at some point Edwards himself must have mentioned the other guys there. I have to wonder that, and wonder if it's just the media, if it's just the media cutting it out. And if that's the case, again, that's a decision by their editors and at their respective news agencies. And you have to wonder, where is that decision coming from? Okay, where's that decision coming from? And I have no doubt that it's from 1PP itself. And again, not just DCPI. I think there are other forces in 1PP who are manipulating the narrative too, because they have something to gain out of it. And I'm calling out the Guardians Association for being part of that too. Okay. Now the reason why I'm calling them out is because, again, as you can see, Edwards was man of the year, right? Just a day before the incident, right? And I'm calling them out specifically because I'm seeing certain people connected to the Guardians, okay, that are pushing the same narrative, and the Guardians itself is a Democrat, is one of those arms of the Democrat Party, by the way, okay. It's a fact. You just have to go through their history and go through their political connections, okay. And what have we seen before? Okay, the media loves running with a feel-good story, especially about a black law enforcement officer. Okay, the media loves turning black law enforcement officers into trophy pieces. Okay, you could have been the we have in the NYPD, we have an agency that for decades have had black executives. We have them in all over this job, you know, all ranks. It doesn't matter. This isn't like the 60s where you just or even before that, the 1900s or something, you know. But the media, whenever a black executive gets promoted to a spot, they love talking about, oh, he's a first of this, first of that. Okay, they love making you into a trophy. Okay, right. And in this case, I think that the Guardians have been instructed to help push that narrative too. And this is, again, this doesn't help anybody, and it especially doesn't help the black cops on the street too. Guardians, Pat, if you're watching, okay, there are plenty of active black cops on the street who feel just as demoralized as every other cop on his job. Okay, and if you had talked about Polgren, a cop, okay, and what he had done, and again, not just him, but you know, we're pointing out him because he's the one who saw the guy running and went ahead of everybody and tackled it. Okay, but the point is that you're not just here's an association that is always proclaiming they're helping black cops. There are plenty of other black cops on the street who are demoralized right now. I know a lot of them who are active cops and who are no longer active cops because they see what will happen to them if they continue in this path. When you do something like this, you're demoralizing them as well. And this organization should have been one to speak out as well and to let the truth be told instead of this manufactured narrative, but instead they're going along with it too.
Rob Lucas, brother, Rob, I love you, man. Makes a great comment here. And it goes to what we're saying is that, to me, this is a complete deflection of really what's going on here, right? Let's deflect the fact that this is an epic failure. Let's neglect the fact that we missed 2 IEDs, that they were actually deployed. People could have died, just pure luck. There was no prior planning. The proper resources that need to be present at the scene were not there. Being in the area is far different than being present at the scene, being mobilized in proper positions, taking key element points to prevent violence or an actual terrorist attack. Rob Lucas says right here, I'm still lost on IED was thrown. He jumped over a fence and the perp was apprehended by someone else. How did he stop a terrorist attack? I don't understand. Listen, there's no doubt about it. I have a problem with the fact that integrity is not important. There's no way that Chief Edwards and Sergeant Navarro, excuse me, I'm not taking away from their bravery. I'm not taking away from the fact that their intentions were to go help and stop whatever was happening. But there's no way that they knew it was an IED. There's absolutely no way. And that's where I have a problem, that they're eating this up and they're playing this game. Chief Edwards and Sergeant Navarro are going along with the narrative. Whatever narrative they're telling them to play, they're playing the game. And John and I spoke about this offline. Yeah, they have to go out there. They have to do what they're told. They have to smile. But they don't necessarily have to play the game. And they're to me, they're eating it up because they're adding into it. Yeah, you know, look of what we do. And listen, just smile for the camera, brother, because there's no way that you knew that was an IED. I'm sorry. Absolutely no way. If anyone wants to challenge me on it, then let's test logic. Let's test logic, because if anyone thinks that you're running towards a bomb, you need your head examined. Bravery and stupidity are far different things. There's a complete distinction. I just think that this is an atrocity. It sends a bad message to the cops. Now let's talk about progression. This is not something that happened overnight. This is not one incident. In less than 6 months, we have numerous incidents where it's just complete failed response by the NYPD. Let's talk about the protest at the synagogue. That was less than 6 months ago. Less than 6 months ago, in the 19th precinct, we had a failed response by the NYPD at a protest at a synagogue. In less than 6 months, we had complete anarchy in Melbourne, Queens, where people were lighting fires. That could have been an act of terrorism. That was violence. That's domestic terrorism, in my opinion. And here we have this planned event that wasn't properly staffed. It wasn't policed properly, and this was an epic fail. How many events do we need that are failures to tell you that the NYPD is just running on luck and that luck is going to run out? In less than 6 months, these planned events were an epic fail. On the Jessica Tisch, there is zero planned response, and there's no opposition to that protest settlement. And we're not taking responsibility at those protest settlements based on the decision of who is the FAA supervisor, the First Amendment activity supervisor, who will take charge and put what necessary resources are there. This is just complete gaslighting. This is bullshit. This is terrible, because the next one, maybe luck will be on their side. But the one after that, if we're playing the laws of probability, the laws of probability will tell you luck's going to run out and people will die. That's the sad part. People will die as a result of this.
No, yeah, dude, it's crazy. Yeah, so like the entire media apparatus is just completely controlled. The Guardians actually have their own podcast now. It's called the Guardians Power Hour. It goes by a different name, but you could tell, like, there's clear information going out. It's weird. It's like this podcast that consistently bashes the NYPD and always celebrates every cop that gets jammed up and wants all the cops arrested or in jail, unless they belong to the Guardians. Then it's like a completely different narrative, and then all of a sudden we care about the cops. It's weird. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah. So check out the Guardians Power Hour. The thing is, like, when we talk about the media, what's super dangerous is, we talk often about the Overton window that you're in, and I don't know, man. I'm like shocked that this clip has not gone viral. I mean, I am shocked, and it doesn't need to go viral for me. I don't care who does it. You could get all the losers that repost the same thing, the Eric Daugherty, all these guys that, like, they just repost the same thing, all of them. Shocking. Oh my God. Here's the mayor after a terrorist attack at a protest saying, this is prior to a terrorist attack in New York City at a protest. But this is what he wants to do going forward. And even after the terrorist attack, he's continuing down this same dangerous road. How isn't this the topic of discussion? Like, how is this not the topic of discussion? Like, it's beyond me. Like, when I said this, like, all the media started calling me, oh, John, what is this? And like, very few of them used it. They didn't have me on, but very few of them use this. Like, and it's shocking to me that this isn't. New York City's being left wide open for a major mass casualty terrorist attack, and no one's talking about this. No one's putting pressure on the mayor to reverse course. The unions are dead silent. The leadership of the NYPD is dead silent, and the media is dead silent. And the public is caught up in the narrative because they don't understand it. Listen to these words, man. Listen, 38 seconds. Listen to what he says.
And then I know on the campaign trail you talked about disbanding the SRG. Is that an inefficiency? Could you see disbanding it? I believe that it would save the city, if we didn't have that SRG, like over $100 million.
So I'll start with the second question, then go to the first. Yes, I continue to believe that we need to disband the SRG. And I'm currently in conversations with the police commissioner about the ways in which we can do so that are operational. And I believe that we should do so not on the basis of any fiscal need, but frankly on the need to decouple the counterterrorism responsibilities within the department from police response to First Amendment exercise.
And then I know on the
how is this not mainstream media? How is this not the front page of every paper? How isn't this clip have millions and millions of views and every American is outraged by this? I hear, he hosted an event for Ramadan. People are more upset that he hosted an event, a faith-based event at City Hall for Ramadan, than they are that he's saying, I'm going to leave you wide open to terrorism. like the messaging has lost. Everybody has lost the plot, dude. Everybody has lost the plot. There should be protest upon protest right now in front of City Hall saying we want counterterrorism staff at these protests. We want to be safe. We do not want to be left wide open. Well, being left wide open because you're a 33-year-old failed rapper moron who thinks he's a socialist, but you got a bigger bank account than most executives in across New York City that actually worked for a living and actually made things with their lives.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how all those people who criticize Mamdani are not saying anything about this, about the failures of that day? I mean, where's Sid Rosenberg to criticize the events? Yeah, it's funny how that works. Maybe what that tells you.
That's a great point. Sid, you listening? I will say though, I went on Greg Kelly last week too. And he was talking about it, I will say, but he was talking about as a result of the show. So just so, but at least he was talking about it. Where's Sid Rosenberg? I don't know. He beats the shit out of Mamdani. That is a great point. Well, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, which tells me that when you see them doing that, that's all theater. Okay, because they're not. They do it when it's convenient for them, and not then they're not focused on the overall big picture. Okay, it's all a theater production when they do that.
Boston Bob says, John, that's because they had a terrorist guy at a dinner. That's why. But so did de Blasio, and so did Eric Adams, and so did all these other people. And that's what we care about. Like, oh, he had a guy that said terrible things about America at dinner. Oh, so that's worse than leaving New York City wide open to a terrorist attack? That's where we are. That's our barometer. If you have someone that said bad things about America or we didn't like, and Bob, I don't mean to pick on you, but could you just elaborate on what it is that he had like a terrorist guy as there? Like, what the guy do? And I'm not picking on you, but my point is that most people are outraged because the media told them to be outraged, and they're not even really sure what the guy did. They don't even really know the comments he made or what he said or what he's done. And it's just because Eric Daugherty and a bunch of idiots reposted it. This guy had the anti-American blah, blah, blah at the dinner. Like, okay. Still not worse than leaving New York City wide open to a terrorist attack. It's not worse than it. It's not worse than releasing 45 cop killers. Oh, yeah. Who did that? Oh, yeah, that's right. Andrew Cuomo and Kathy Hochul.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when you live in an echo chamber and you live in a vacuum and you only listen to specific media, and that's what's driven into your brain. That's why I think this network is far more unique than people realize. Is we're listening to all kinds of media. We're listening to friends and listeners. We're listening to trolls, haters. First Amendment speech is allowed on this platform, and we're taking in all perspectives, and then we're making an analysis and giving our perspective, and that's the way I think you have to live. You can't just shut off all the noise. And I think some people say, just shut off the noise. I don't want to hear it, and only listen to what you want to hear. That's very subjective. You need to hear other perspectives also to make a proper assessment. So this idea of you listen to one media and then, even if it's bullshit, well, you just believe in it because it becomes a religion for you. To me, I think that's not sensible, and it doesn't meet logic. I want to hear my opposition. I want to hear opposing opinions, because as far and crazy the left is, I still listen to what they say because I'm curious. And sometimes, and let's admit, sometimes they say things like, you know what, they do have some teeth to it. They distort it and they perpetuate it to fit their mission. But some of the stuff you say, okay, I can see that and I can understand it. And you can't, I think it's just, you're doing yourself a disservice when you live in a vacuum in an echo chamber and you only want to hear what you want to hear, because that's a feel-good thing. It's almost like, if you go to AI and you want to type in stuff that you want to hear, well, you could be very subjective in your questioning and you can get the response you want to get. And it's the same thing, and I think the reality is people just don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear it. And we're telling you the truth. John, I wonder if people actually got what you're saying, but this power hour here, this roundtable that we're having right now, it's not to knock Edwards and say, Edwards, you're a bad guy, or Navarro. and be very singular. What we're doing is acknowledging the fact that this is a failed mission. There's no mission in the police department right now that is specifically for public safety. It's become optics over policy and politics over, wins the day. And Edwards, you're in a position right now. You're the chief. In my position, it's too early. I think it's by rocket fuel. But now that you're in the position, it's time to take full responsibility, take ownership, and read through that protest settlement and dissect it. And if next time you're in charge of a planned event like this, think we don't want you to have to jump over a fence. We want this prevented. We don't want to win by luck. And I don't want to see I don't want to see Edwards. I don't want to see Navarro. Any of these guys get hurt. I don't want to see them have to take down a perpetrator who has an IED, because next time you might not be so lucky. What I want to see is take every preventive measure possible to prevent this from happening. Prior planning prevents poor performance. Take full ownership and responsibility. Just like Jocko Willnick's book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, take ownership at every level. Take responsibility. And that's what real leaders do. What did we do right and what did we do wrong? And if we're just gloating about this incident, we're not being honest. That's a complete failure. The fact that an IED was deployed and a second one, it's not a success. It's a failure. We need to go back in the after action review and say, what could we have done different? SRG being in the area is far different than SRG being at the ready in positions ready for potential terrorist attacks. First Amendment activities need to be planned. Now, Jessica Tisch is right. It doesn't have to be a protest where a terrorist activity takes place. But sure damn well, if it is going to happen, logic would tell you most likely it would be at a protest because of the mass amount of people. So we have to use logic. Now, she said that they're at high alert right now. There used to be color coding for alertness in this country, but that changed. That changed a couple of years ago, and now it goes by just credible information that's documented. It goes through it. I forgot what the source is called, but they changed the name of it. So what is different in the way you're policing now with the heightened level of threat that we are at in time of war than what was different before? Because she said we have drones, we have specialized resources, we have heavy weapons. That's something that we have on a daily basis. We're always at a high level threat of terrorism. What apparatus is different now? What was added to what was put in there as an additive now than it was different before? And the answer is nothing. And that's why she was fumbling, as John told you, about her nervous tick, because the reality is they were not prepared for this. They didn't plan for this, and nothing was changed. They were not prepared, and they did not put themselves in a position for a high-level threat. They had no idea this would happen, and if they did, they intentionally put the NYPD and the city at risk by not putting all the resources necessary to play optics for Mamdani, to play this game that SRG is the enemy. They played the game, and they almost lost. Actually, they did lose.
They did lose. 100% they lost. The game just got disqualified. That's all, because the terrorists, the terrorists actually won. And Fox says here, Finance Unfiltered. It wasn't the last show; it was the show prior that got taken down. We said that that event was a dry run. The real stuff's coming, and boom, and then we get taken down. And again, like this is Zohran Mamdani again. Like no one's schooling him on this. He's in talks with his police commissioner. He's going to say it again. Again, just a reminder: First Amendment activity is a protest. There needs to protests should not be policed any differently than a parade or any other mass gathering, a concert. Right? We have St. Patty's Day parade coming up. We're going to be out in full force. I hope we're going to have a competent response. We're going to have a competent counterterrorism apparatus there. Why would we do it at St. Patty's Day and not do it at a protest? And look, I'm not saying every protest deserves thousands of cops either. I've been to plenty of the little pop-up, what are they? The rent's too damn high with the guy singing. Like, look, we don't got to get crazy when there's 5 people chanting the rent's too damn high and singing it. Like, we could be all right in that apparatus. But, like, when you have a known provocateur that's caused issues all over the country, I mean, come on, man. You know that's something there's gonna be a ton of media there. There's gonna be a ton of morons there. There's gonna be a ton of agitators there. That's a chance. That's the time when you over prepare. You know, the guy banging and singing the rent's too damn high. I think we'll be all right with a couple of cops. But that deserved the response that Edwards had. You know what I mean? Not the other thing. That was a failure. But here he is, and no one's reining him in because everybody either wants a position, wants to keep their position, or wants a contract from him. So everyone's kissing their ass. And, you know, not for nothing, I'm going to call it out here. You know, Ragnella said that SRG should be disbanded, you know, and it's a fucking joke, dude. It's an absolute joke. It's like, oh, how do you feel now? Do you reverse that position? You know, how do you feel about that? Remember that article that came out in the Gothamist that they should be disbanded and changed or revamped? Like, come on, man. The whole thing. It's like, and no one wants to say it. And even today, millions of lives are being exposed and no one wants to call out this was a systemic failure because everybody just wants to eat off the grift, and he's the king right now, right? Nobody wants to bite the hands that either feeds them or could potentially feed them. Listen to this idiot. Listen to him. Zoran, I don't give a shit about you. I actually don't want to work for you. So let's get that straight.
Will the Strategic Response Group within the NYPD still be responding to protests? I know you've had some serious concerns about this, but obviously not a lot of time yet to implement that change.
I continue to share those concerns around the strategic response groups, and I continue to be committed to creating a new police response to the exercising of First Amendment rights. And what it comes back to is that this was a unit that was created initially to respond as part of counterterrorism efforts. That does not need to be conflated with the response to New Yorkers using their First Amendment rights. And so what we need to do is both keep those rights as a sanctity in New York City and keep New Yorkers safe, and I'm confident we'll be able to do that.
But will this...
So you heard him say it again right there, right? Like, you don't need to have counterterrorism at a protest. And that was exactly what Jessica Titch said at that press conference. Look, that could have happened anywhere. It just happened at a protest. But we don't need counterterrorism at a protest. Like, basically doubling down on this. How isn't this clip viral? Like, why is him celebrating his faith at a Ramadan event, which Adams, de Blasio, and every other mayor before them have done, that's mainstream media. That's something that we need to blast and pay attention to. Not look. Would it be a big deal if I become the mayor and I have a Lent event at Gracie Mansion, or I do a Ramadan event at Gracie Mansion, or I do anything for Hanukkah at Gracie Mansion? Like, this is what New York City does. Like, I thought this was a country that was based upon freedom of religion. That's what we're outraged about. We're not outraged by saying I'm going to leave millions of lives, innocent lives, wide open to terrorism because I'm a moron who can't bench 135 pounds and John McCarty is a much better rapper than I'll ever be. Like, that's why, you know, that's what it is. You know, I rap in the shower, people, you know.
Bust out a tune, John. Come on, let's go.
You know, do an acapella, you know.
Is it what, Ludacris?
I
You know
don't
what?
know.
Marlon will start on a podcast one day with John in the shower. Don't worry, we won't have the mic on. I mean, we won't have the camera on. But you can start rapping while you're in the shower. We'll open up with that.
Yeah. You know, by Mamdani saying that, what he meant was we don't need we don't need a counterterrorism contingent at a protest because Jessica Tisch could manipulate the media after. Yeah.
I got Daddy on the phone.
Yeah. Because
we'll just make a hero.
Yeah. We'll make some phone calls to the media afterwards, and you're gonna hear the narrative we want you to hear.
Mondani saved you.
That conversation, right? Hey, listen. Yeah, make Edwards the hero. Yeah, Navarro kicked the IED.
Yeah. He apparently he cleared the IED. Okay, he cleared it.
Oh, he cleared it.
Yeah. That's
he
his
cleared
words.
it.
I had to make sure I cleared this device and then just go to try to save as many lives as I could.
This guy could.
Wow.
This guy couldn't clear a hallway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And your union post that, dude? Like, they would have been like, yeah, nah, dude, I don't know if we, you know, let's tone that down a little bit. You could, dude, if I have the whole aftermath on video, one of the reporters on the scene sent it to me and they don't want to post it. And I was like, I'm not going to post it either. But I'm not putting it up. I don't have it ready, and it's too long. But if you see in the aftermath of it, dude, how long it takes them to clear it, it's insane, bro. It's literally like a half hour. It's insane. It's insane, and it's like again failure, again understaffed. But they were in the area. We had people in the area to clear it. Eric, don't worry about it. It was good.
Listen, I don't know Navarro. He could be a great guy. He could be a terrible cop. I don't know him, but I do know. There's no doubt about it. There's no way he knew that's an IED. No way. Because if you knew it was an IED, you would not kick it. That's the last thing. That's the last thing you would do. Anyone want to challenge me? Test logic. There's a difference between bravery and stupidity. You would not kick it. I'm sure right now he's saying, "Thank God, I'm a lucky man," because he is. He's a lucky man.
Yeah. Look, if that ID was cleared, then it doesn't look clear to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't look clear to me. And my question is,
who is this idiot? Like, does he realize that what he just did to get a photo?
Yeah.
Do you realize what you did, bro?
Yeah. People need some training, and training will tell you if you could see the bomb could see you. Do you remember that video? I don't know if you guys saw it. There's a video of two soldiers, and they're watching a bombing, and they're far away. They're up on they're on a building top. I think it was in Iraq. They were really far, and they were looking to see it. And the bomb, when it exploded, some shrapnel came, and they got so lucky it almost hit them. Because if you could see the bomb, it could see you. You guys ever see that? These soldiers, they must have been like a mile away.
I don't think so.
But yeah, that's the reality. If you could see a bomb, it could see you. This idiot taking a picture, like, oh look, oh yeah, that's smart. That's smart. That's about the stupidest thing you can do.
Yeah, there's a difference between bravery and pure stupidity.
Yeah, it's just
what we're witnessing here is if you weren't scared, it's because you're too dumb to be scared. That's what it is.
Listen, and I'm not saying, John, I'm not saying I haven't done things in my career that were brave and stupid. I've done plenty of things that it was brave and stupid, and then afterwards, but I wouldn't say, oh yeah, look what we did. We cleared out a bomb. I would say, like, damn, we were stupid. Like, wow, we got lucky. I would, John, you know it. There are plenty of times in our careers that we got lucky. Like, shit. And I'm sure there were scenes I walked away, rubbing my head like, oh my God, wow, that could have been bad.
Yeah.
You have to
and
know.
Here's the thing about that photo too, right? If at the moment this photo is being taken, Navarro is with the chief at the arrest where they're lifting the perp off the ground, right?
Wait, so he didn't secure the bomb?
Exactly.
But he just said with the SBA, and he just said that he secured the body because he wanted to save lives.
Yeah, exactly. We
Oh
don't
my
need
God,
you at the arrest.
it's almost like the whole thing is just like a public safety propaganda.
Wait, John, if the union says it, it's not true?
Wow.
I'm confused.
Don't ask questions, kid. Come on, when are we getting pinky rings, bro? We gotta get Finance Unfiltered pinky rings, man.
Speaking of, hey, shout out to
Mo.
Shout out to Scott Monroe, who did send us a coin. I want to say thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Scott Monroe did send us a coin. I got it. I don't know where the hell I put it, but I have it. Thank you, John. You have it with you? I just want to say, Scott, thank you. We appreciate it. It's a man of his word. He made a challenge coin in honor of this show, and he did send it to us. And I think he's raising money for the Widows Fund. So I appreciate it. Thanks, brother. When I locate, I'll put it up. You have it with you, John?
You don't know how to get it out of the thing.
Go get it. I know my daughter was playing with it.
It just has to be noted, though. Like, I don't know if this is a legit coin. I don't know if they're actually selling this or if this is a gag coin but like, so we made a thumbnail about Scott Monroe. I think it was like DEA exposed.
Yeah.
And I made it I made it resemble Don Corleone. And I don't know why I did the cigar in the mouth, but I just did. I don't know why. I just like the way it looked. But he used that photo.
Yeah.
Point.
Scott, shout out to you, brother.
We could tell you love yourself, bro. We could tell you love yourself. That's all I got.
You know, he's a man of his word, though. He said he would send it to us, and he did. So,
all right. So Scott, since you're watching, right? Hold on. Let me put this up here. since you're watching, why don't you be the gangster that we made you in here? Start a press conference and say right now that the mayor in New York City has to pull back his words and the NYPD has to change their protest settlement agreement right now, or at least their protest posture. The executives in the NYPD should override their protest posture and have counterterrorism staffed at these events, overstaff these events, and make sure that your detectives aren't unnecessarily killed and maimed in the line of duty as well as other innocent New Yorkers. Be this guy, Scott.
Yeah.
Be this dude.
And Scott, you should be getting one more member. His name is Grant Bulgarin. You should be getting, you need membership right now for dues. You should be getting one more member, and that's Grant Bulgarin. He should be promoted today. It's not fair. He should be promoted yesterday. Detective Bulgarin. That's what I want to see. He should be your newest member.
Pat Donahue says he wants to know when the Irish event is set at Gracie Mansion for the month of March. Pat, when I come to New York, we're doing it. We're going to go to Old St. Pat's Cathedral. Then we're going to go to Steakhouse. You're buying. All right? Well,
yeah, you know what, Pat? That's right, Pat.
You're buying.
I'm coming for that one, then. I'm down for a steak.
You know, and I'll tell them my name's Mick Carey, and it'll be like we'll be like we're family. Donahue.
John, as long as you don't have an O in front of your name, you're good. It won't be O McCarry.
I'll change it to MCCAARRY.
Someone texted me one day, like, you and Macri keep saying this. I'm like, who's Macri? Oh,
you could, like, a lot of people say Macri. You know, a lot of people say Macri. You know. He also says that I'm like the fifth Beatle of the Wu-Tang, and I left over creative differences right before they blew up.
But you know what, John? All kidding aside, you know what you just said? That is so important, and that's what I've been saying. Overstaffed. We used to always overstaff events and then scale back. Even crime scenes, right? We do it all the time. Just a regular crime scene where there's a shooting or a home invasion. We always overstaff. We always make it larger than necessary. And as we start to monitor, we scale back. That's always been like the theme of the NYPD. But we're not doing that anymore. Not at all. First of all, they can't even overstaff it. They won't admit it that they're understaffed.
Yeah, the thing is, like, we always had that saying, like, hurry up and wait. Everybody get there, get everything out, get all the barriers there. And then we just stood around for like 3 hours doing nothing, twiddling our thumbs because nobody was even there yet. And that was a counterterrorism measure. You know, were we counterterrorism officers? No, but we were involved in counterterrorism at that moment in time. We had it set up. We had the pen set up. We had the directions of where cars could go, where foot traffic could go. That was a counterterrorism measure. What happened to hurry up and wait? Now it's like, let's get there and we'll figure it out. Did hurry up and wait change into that? Because that's what it looks like. Let's hear what my favorite member of the New York City Council had to say about the SRG.
Okay, Councilmember Caban, followed by Councilmember Hanif.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, CCRB, for showing up and for trying to do your work without a lot of the mechanisms you need or the staffing that you need. I'm pissed. I'm looking out on a packed room full of New Yorkers who desperately need and undeniably deserve true public safety. And I can't take my eyes off of the empty seats where NYPD should be sitting today. Shame on them for not showing up. And it says here in their written testimony that on advice of counsel, they are, quote, not able to answer any questions at this time. And as attorney, as a trial attorney, I call bull. They could have shown up with counsel. They could have taken our questions, and counsel could have indicated on the record each and every time their advice for them to remain silent or answer some of the questions and expand on what they did include in their testimony. It's bull. And best believe that I had questions, that we had questions that will remain unanswered because the NYPD brass is scared of accountability. They're afraid that submitting to the bare minimum of oversight of the city council would expose the rot at the core of the SRG. They are terrified that they might have to tell the truth and take steps to fix what they've broken. So instead, they run away when they should be sitting in those seats. They ought to hang their heads in shame over this act of utter cowardice. If you can't face the people's elected council, You have no business billing us for your unlimited overtime and disgraceful misconduct settlement fees. Even in the time since we all entered this chamber this morning, in the Times, we saw news has broken that the people of the city are going to have to pay out millions upon millions of dollars to compensate protesters abused and mistreated by police during the summer of 2020. And those very same police, with the opportunity this morning to take some responsibility for their actions, are nowhere to be seen. This should have been the final straw for the SRG, the final proof that they are a rogue, unaccountable squadron. And it is particularly offensive because at the inception of this unit, the city played on New Yorkers' still painful trauma from the September 11th attacks and promised that the SRG would keep us safe from terrorism. And instead, the SRG has become a poster child for mission creep, its headcount ballooning to nearly 3 times its intended size, and its activities extending to everything from violently cracking down on legitimate protests to humiliating our homeless neighbors and evicting them from their encampments. And so how dare they show such disdain for the people of New York City this morning? How dare they show and hold such contempt for the very people they are sworn to protect? How dare they give the middle finger to this body and go about their normal business like nothing is wrong? If you were undecided before, let this outrageous display help you make up your mind. It is time to disband the SRG and redeploy its funds to evidence-based safety strategies. And so I know that there are many of us that are certainly going to stay in this fight with all of y'all. So thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up.
So you hear her too. This is where this is in 2023, by the way, people. So you hear this is where the ideology that Zohran Mamdani has about the SRG comes from, that they have no business at the protests. Just there's one comment in here. Cobbs 3506. All due respect, the only way this could have been prevented, talking about the terrorist attack, would have been have everyone coming to the protest pass through a screening checkpoint similar to what was done for New Year's. Absolutely wrong. I get what you're saying, that it's the only way you could stop a device from entering that. But we had 2 devices lit off, not 1, but 2. It was over several minutes. Again, like I said, if you had it staffed properly, the minute someone throws something, they're in handcuffs. And if you listen to what we've been saying, and we've said on a previous podcast, and we said time and time again, we may not have stopped the first device from getting off, but he never gets and lights the second device. And I personally believe he would have got the same attention lighting the first device as he got lighting the second device had we staffed it properly. If we would have staffed it properly, had those pens rendered, and had control of what was happening on that scene, that never happens. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sounds very defeatist. We can't accept that because people die if you fail. People die, and John is absolutely right. If that event was properly staffed, including having SRG there, then we have more eyes to watch. To watch all the protest participants. And again, if you push guys to be active, and you push back against the people like this idiot lowering the threshold of oversight or changing all these laws that haven't benefited the actual policing product, right? Then you're going to instill a culture in a PD of guys being active and proactive and not standing around and waiting to be told what to do. And it's all part of a package that would create a better NYPD and a more efficient NYPD. Okay. And you can't just accept that, hey, this would have happened basically regardless of what we did. You can't, that's not acceptable, because the minute you start accepting defeat is when more of this is going to happen, and more of what, again, those young cops who barely put their hands on the guy walking through Times Square with a fake gun. Okay. That you're going to get more of that. Okay. And the next time something like that happens, people are going to get killed. And then what are you going to do? It could be we all have family in the city. Okay, do you want your family members to be the victim of such an incident? No. So I don't think we can accept a failure. And can I just point out just how retarded this is? You know, these idiots. Yeah, is there anybody around you? Okay, not that these masks did anything, but you see how stupid this is. There's nobody around you, and this idiot is wearing a mask to talk about. These people are absolute morons, you know, and it's just a shame that these are the people ruling New York City. Okay, the same people who lowered the threshold, right, for settlements in the city now complain that there are a lot of settlements. Well, moron, maybe you shouldn't have lowered the threshold. You know, utterly ridiculous. You know?
These people, these people are so into. Marlon, if you could go back to that picture, these people are so into virtual signaling. To me, what the reason why she wears this mask, in my opinion, is not because of health reasons. The only thing I enjoy by this is she's wearing that mask, so she's tasting her own bullshit. That's the only thing I enjoy by it. But to me, it's virtual signaling. It's a sign of symbolism to let people know who she is, what her ideology is, how she leans politically. That's what that mask is. That mask is a sign to let everyone know that I am a dangerous liberal. I am a dangerous democratic socialist. Stand with me. Without wearing a sign, that's a sign. That's exactly what it is. Because no logical person will tell you, and that this is going to prevent any health issues. I mean, you're by yourself. You're completely isolated. No one's standing next to you. It's just absolutely ridiculous. To me, this is complete symbolism. It's virtual signaling. Now, Cobbs 3506, what's up, brother? Says, John, I get it, but we live in a free society. That was what John was answering before. He says, completely agree with second point. More is better. Can't argue with that. So if you weren't here the entire time, but just not, if you lost track, what he's talking about now, Cobbs, is obviously, and what we're talking is more presence. We're talking about being overstaffed is a better planning position than being understaffed and need the resources later. Now, what I'm saying is, in my opinion, staff is is very important. But what's more important, in my opinion, is the way that we police. And we used to look for behavioral indicators that something is not fit in the baseline, that something is wrong. We were intrusive. We weren't just statues stand there just hoping the day goes by and not actually doing police work. Police work is when you're standing on a post, it's actually canvassing the area and looking for behavioral indicators that don't fit the baseline. And when I say baseline, meaning at a protest, what to expect there. Expect two opposing groups arguing, right? Looking for potential violence. And I don't think we're doing that. I think they're just standing there and just going through the motions like robots because there's no training, there's no vision, and there's no mission. I don't know what Chief Edwards debriefed to his personnel, but I could predict it wasn't, hey, look for potential bombs, look for potential terrorist threats, look for potential weapons. I'm sure it was far different than that. Maybe it's, hey, make sure you don't get a CCRB or, be nice to people out there. Let them have their First Amendment rights. I'm sure it was something more towards that. Let people move around. I would put my money on it. But the way we used to police before, we were far more intrusive and we would look for those behavioral indicators. I think that's more important. And we would make those observations. That's why we were making such good arrest out there. Is because we're looking for those behavioral indicators. And that's why I think if we police the way we used to, I don't even think the first one gets out. Because I find it hard to believe 2 young kids with 2 IEDs that they're not sweating or they're not acting nervously, that they're not making awkward movements that don't fit the baseline, that they're not doing things that caught the eye of a cop. Like, wait a minute, something's going on here. What's wrong? Maybe I should approach him. Maybe I should have an encounter. But with a How Many Stops Act, right? Those encounters have to be documented. With stop, question, and possibly frisk, those are other stops that have to be documented with federal oversight and potential CCRBs, potential civilian complaints. So stripping away from the fabric of policing, I think that intrusive police work, the way we used to police before, would prevent the first one because we would see someone sweating. We would see those nervous movements. There had to be something. I find it hard to believe that 2 kids bring 2 IEDs in front of Gracie Mansion, New York City, and they're so comfortable to just throw them that there was nothing that preceded the time that they deployed it that was a behavioral indicator that would have led to a stop. I find it hard to believe.
You know, Rob Lukash says it here, and like, Rob, you nailed it, right? Like, there is a reason why we were asked to face the crowd and not watch the parade. So for years and years and years, when we staff parades, mass gatherings, which is our First Amendment activity, so everyone's aware, what we were told as cops and what we told our troops as supervisors is, you'll face the crowd. You won't turn and watch the parade, and it's exactly what Eric was just alluding to there. You're gonna see what doesn't fit the baseline, right? I remember specifically being at a Thanksgiving Day parade. All my guys are facing the crowd, and I remember all these smiling faces. And Thanksgiving Day parade, you know, it's definitely a soft target. It's definitely something you need to worry about. But it's not usually as dense, and it's not as crazy. It's more of a family event. It's done real early. It's over real quick. It breaks down real quick. But I remember clear as day sitting there. All the families are there, families and friends. And I remember specifically looking at this guy that was looking at me and this cop. And the cop comes over to me and he whispers in my ear. He's like, "Do you see this guy?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "Look, I'm going to maintain eye contact with him. Just you get 2 other guys and walk from either side and grab him." Right? Because what do we think? We think he's going to light an IED, or he's you know, so that's exactly what they do. I maintain eye contact. He gets another guy. One goes from one side, one goes to the other side. And I think it was multiple. I think it was more people. They grab him. It turns out he's just a legitimate EDP. Like, he's not a harm to anyone. He's just a wacko. Like, you know, and it wasn't bad, but we ID'd him, right? I had to hop over the barrier for that one, just so in case people are aware. You know,
John, where's your picture?
Even though everyone's in here saying I'm 5'2", you know.
John, where's your picture of you jumping over that barrier? Where is it?
I don't know. I didn't make because I was jumping towards the crowd instead of away. I was jumping towards the bomb instead of away from the bomb. So,
Okay.
You know,
you jumping towards the perpetrator?
Yeah. The potential bomb, you know. So and that's what it is. Like, that's why the staffing matters. You know, we're not going to, obviously, it's not feasible to set up at every event a New Year's Eve style barrier response or counterterrorism response. It's not feasible. It's not like you're at a fixed event that's always going to be there, but it absolutely is feasible. And New York City has the budget. And even with a diminished police department, they still have the manpower to police these protests properly. And they're not doing it because of morons. But yeah, Rob, that was absolutely great point. And it just brings back so many memories of doing parade. And that's what you do. You face the crowd, and we're spread out so that we see the entire crowd. So guess what happens? If 2 guys get together and one has a backpack and they take an ID out of the backpack and they light it, they're never doing it again. They're never getting it off. Or if someone's out there and they throw a bottle or they throw something, they're never doing it again, because we have eyes on them, you know? And at that point, I'm standing. What do I have? Do I even have a whole entire city block? No, I don't. But I have a peripheral of about 30, 40 people that I'm able to see what's happening. And then the next cop has another 30, 40 people. And the next cop and the next cop. Maybe I have 2, 3 storefronts on a city block. And the next cop and the next cop and the next cop. And we're able to cover large areas that way. And that's what we're saying, how this could have easily been prevented, because you see clear on the block, the chief's there gathered up with a bunch of cops. And you see on the other block, there's protesters here, and a ton of cops are gathered up there. They should have been spread out on that entire block. And that never happens. It never happens. And and why aren't they doing it? Because they want to please people like this. He is a public advocate, Jamani Williams. This is still in 23. This is the same event. But this is how long this has been going back for. And, you know, me and Eric wrote an article about this. I think we might have even wrote 2 articles about why the SRG should have been disbanded. I actually testified at this hearing saying all of the things that we're saying now. You know, and it's like, it's just a further narrative that keeps going. Here's Jamani Williams, still public advocate, by the way, won in a landslide in the last election this November.
Thank you very much. My name is Jamani Williams, public advocate, City of New York. I want to thank Chair Hanks and the members of the Committee on Public Safety for holding this very important hearing. I also want to align myself to some of the comments of the chair, particularly with the administration and NYPD not being here. Held out hope that they would. I think it is shameful and an affront to this council and to New York City as a whole. I understand that there are some legal concerns. I do think just being present, even if it was to read the statement you submitted, would have shown some respect to the process and having this conversation in a public forum. In 2015, the NYPD formed the Strategic Response Group, or SRG, to combat terrorism. This is a voluntary unit that has attracted officers who reportedly wanted to see, quote unquote, more action, and outfits them with riot gear and heavy weaponry, including military-grade long-range acoustic devices, also called LRADs, and machine guns. Originally, the unit was to consist of 350 officers with a budget of $13 million. Quickly, that ballooned to more than 700 officers with nearly $90 million in funds, including $10.2 million overtime last year alone. The SRG's involvement in policing protests, as we have seen, unfortunately, seemed to be more about suppression of speech and assembly and less about keeping everyone safe. Following criticism of the SRG potentially policing large-scale protests, the NYPD claimed in 2015 that the SRG would not be involved in covering protests. However, the NYPD began deploying the SRG to protests later that year. The results of the SRG's presence at protests have been aggressive and chaotic, and have invariably escalated nonviolent protests into dangerous and violent environments. The SRG beat protesters with batons, sprayed crowds with pepper spray, rammed into protesters on their bikes, and trapped protesters using barriers such as shields, bikes, and metal gates with no way for people to escape, a tactic known as kettling, and blasted crowds with noise cannons. I myself have had the brunt of over-response to protests, several protests, including SRG, including at Occupy Wall Street and at the George Floyd protests of 2020. I've also filmed and witnessed. Many SRG unit members have multiple misconduct complaints against them. Of the 62 SRG officers and supervisors identified by the appeal and videos from 2020 protests, 46 SRG members and 292 misconduct allegations filed against them with the Civilian Complaint Review Board, or CCRB. These complaints included abuse of authority, excessive force.
All right, I'm done. He can't read, and we don't need to listen to it. But if you listen to what he was saying, if you listen deep to what he was saying the same thing. No reason we need counterterrorism at protests. So no reason. We just had a terrorist attack at a protest. But according to them, it wasn't feasible to think. It wasn't feasible to think that the NYPD should deploy counterterrorism resources at a protest. And we see how failed and flawed this logic is. And we're continuing to double down. So everyone working for the New York City Police Department, great guys. Edwards is a great guy. He's going along with Jamani Williams. Edwards is a great guy. He's going along with Zohran Mamdani. Edwards is a great guy. He's going along with Tiffany Caban. This is what we're telling you. You're being failed. You're being left wide open, and you morons are cheering it on. I don't know what else we need to say about it. I mean, I think we beat this up. Unfortunately, you're left wide open, and you're cheering it on as a great success when it was a systemic failure that you all should be sitting there going, oh my God, we're a bunch of morons. We let these people tell us how to police, even though we know it's wrong, and we're willingly going to go out there and do it again.
Yeah, and again, I want to point out just it was pointed out a lot better on the executive perspective on Wednesday. Inspector Leeson and Chief Lukash did a awesome breakdown of the events of that day.
That was a great show.
But they also pointed out just how much of a mess this event was, and how it seemed uncontrolled. And, gotten out of hand. And I recall seeing something actually being thrown in one of these scenes already,
Yep.
So the fact that happened already, lets you know that in fact, I'm willing to bet it probably happened again. We just didn't it just probably wasn't captured on camera. But, when you have a scene that's like this already, that's a mess already, you're inviting the next lunatic out there to take a shot at it, because you're not going to get a better opportunity here than here. I also want to point out again that did he know? If he knew that was an IED, then the first thing out of his mouth would have been like, clear the area. instead of cuffs. Okay, that would have been your focus, because there's a lot of people there, and if that bomb had went off there, all these cops would have been hurt. So, and again, this is after the perp was they were struggling to put him in cuffs, right? He calls out cuffs, right? And what was I going to say? He calls out cuffs, and the bomb is still back in the scene. And I believe that later on you hear him get on the radio, right? I believe it finally hit them what they had after the perp on the ground starts reciting verses from the Quran. And he says, after he starts reciting verses, I think it hit them. Oh shit, we got a terrorist hit. That is a bomb. Because then you see him start getting on the radio and telling them to clear. I hear him say clear something. I don't know if it's clear the sidewalk, but he does say it. So.
Well, that's what I've been saying over and over, and I've been pounding my chest on that. There's no way, if you just test logic, there's no way they knew it was an IED. I'm not saying that they weren't trying to shut down whatever criminal activity they believe was happening. I believe that their response was they believed that there was some type of crime. Not sure. They believe an item was thrown. They believe that it started to get chaotic, which is why they started to charge the scene. But I don't believe they thought it was a bomb. I don't believe they thought. Because if you test logic, if you thought it was a bomb, your first reaction without any training, excuse me, even if you didn't have a day of training, your logic would tell you, get the fuck out of there and get everyone else out of there. That would be logic. But the idea that they're charging to it and looking to make an apprehension, it's my belief based on that they thought that that there was some violence that was going to ensue, maybe a fight, maybe something was thrown, maybe it was a weapon. But I don't think they had any idea it was a bomb until exactly that. Until there was some rhetoric. Maybe they heard Allah Akbar. I don't know what the case is, but there's no doubt in my mind they had no idea. So with that being said, it's your Friday Roundtable. I want to say like, share, and subscribe. Great points, Marlon. Great points today, John. Absolutely. Friends and listeners, the engagement, we really appreciate it. The trolls too, of course. That's why I say don't live in a vacuum. Don't live in an echo chamber. Don't shut down the noise. Be able to withstand it, listen to it, and actually funnel through it and see where it's coming from. Listen to someone like Tiffany Caban, even though she's a complete nut job, but listen to what she's saying, because she's not the only one. There are thousands, there are millions of people who live just like her. That's why she's wearing that mask, so she can signal to the people that think just like she does, that move just like she does. That's a sign. That mask, keep in mind, that mask is not just a mask to cover their face, but it's a symbol. It's virtual signaling. It's a sign to let other people know who they are, right? Just as people would say a MAGA hat is a symbol, it's a sign, and so is wearing a mask. So with that being said, let's get to the coffee and donuts. Let's rock. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I just, again, I'm not taking away from how locked in he is here. I'm just not. I'm not going to, you see those eyes. It's like a trained athlete. Like, you see that, I'm
That's
not taking away
2
from
feet, John. Okay, according to the people on the show, that would mean you're only 3 feet above it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, you're a dwarf. I don't know what's going on here. John, I don't know. You're the same height as me. Maybe an inch difference. That's about it.
I lose like 2 inches every time we do the show. They were starting out at 5'7". Now I'm down to 5'3".
John's gonna be 4'11" pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm 4'11". That's all right.
Yeah. Hey,
I'll still kick
you guys remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember this synagogue in Manhattan? If you want to think about it, this has actually been like another failure not to have SRG there.
That's what I'm saying.
This has kind of been memory hold.
So wait, you want SRG at First Amendment activities? That's not what they do. You heard it. This could have happened anyway, Marlon.
So a terrorist attack is a First Amendment activity? Is that what we're saying? Yeah, apparently.
No, we can't fight terrorism at protests. Right,
no.
You know that.
Everywhere else it's okay, just not at protest.
You racist bastard.
Was that
the Constitution?
Hey, John, was that a green light arrest?
Yeah, I don't know.
An IED?
I don't know, because I couldn't focus on red light, green light offenses. I was trying to read it. That was hard reading, dude.
Oh,
that was
terrible.
hard reading. That was hard reading. All right, let's get to the coffee and donuts, peoples.
Or ball gags and dildos.
Yeah, whatever. So moral of the story: Jessica Tisch, Soham Mandani, Eric Adams, Mike LePetri, Rebecca Weiner, everyone else going along with this narrative, you all suck. Like, that's it. The way you're policing protests sucks. It's that simple. Oh, and Edwards, the way that you operate on the ground sucked. I don't care that they're blowing you. It sucked. And every cop knows it, dude. Everybody knows it. Every supervisor knows it, from sergeant up. Everybody.
Great picture. Great photo.
Horrible. And dude, Marlon nailed it 100%. That's exactly what happened. They had no fucking idea. They had no idea. Now they're pretending. Yeah, and then I secured the bomb and I secured the area. When? Half hour later? You didn't even know what you were doing, you idiot. It's Marlon, honestly, I would bet money that's exactly what happened. They're like, yo, he keeps saying Allahu Akbar, though. Oh, maybe that is a bomb.
Who is that? Is that his friend? Who's Allah Akbar?
Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm the chief?
Yeah. I'm sure Marlon, they probably got on the radio. We're looking for Allah Akbar. Anybody seen Allah Akbar?
Like, think about it. This dude's gonna get he's probably gonna get a statue in front of One Police Plaza. He's gonna have this storied photo hanging in department facilities, and it was a systemic failure, and the dude knew absolutely nothing what was going on. Like, it was the dumbest shit ever. And it's like, oh, look at cops, what they do. It's like, yeah.
But that's what I've been saying, John. There's no way they knew. If you knew, test logic, if you knew it was a bomb, you're not running towards it and you're not kicking it. You're not doing. There's no way.
You're going to either shoot him, you're either going to pull out your gun running towards him to take him out, or you're running the other way.
Yeah, and you get everybody else out of it.
And you're screaming to evacuate instead of waiting a half hour to evacuate.
Marlon, John, think about it. If you're in that situation, you're grabbing cops by their collars and you're like, go, we got to get out of here. Go, get everybody out of here. Let's go. You're grabbing people. Go. That's exactly what you're doing. Get the fuck out of here. Let's go.
From the words of the sane, either moderate or more conservative reporters that were on the scene that day, what the words of it were this was terrible policing. That's what they said. This was terrible policing. We didn't know that what was happening because the NYPD didn't know what was happening. That was their words. And honestly, watching it from a distance, we said it over and over again. It was terrible policing. I mean, nothing to be celebrated about. Absolutely nothing. And then to say we're going to continue doing this? Insane, bro. Insane. Let's get to the coffee donut so we're not rambling on here. Let's go. But I could talk about it for 8 hours because it's literally infuriating me. Like, my blood is boiled. You know?
And it should. We shouldn't be celebrating this. Even though the cops did a good job, it shouldn't be a celebration. What I'm saying is, if they did a great job, still something we shouldn't be celebrating. Like, this is fucking scary. This is scary. This could happen again and again. And how many times? Yeah, you do as best a job as you can until you lose a life.
Yeah.
There's a conversation about tunnel vision in here that we haven't had, but I don't know if we'll ever have it. But think of it for a second. You, especially as a supervisor, right? You need to not get tunnel vision yourself, because that's a bomb. And I mean, at that point, it's better to let him run. Okay, you got an immediate problem right there, and that's the bomb. And if that bomb goes off, the guys around it are dead. That you're supervising. So in a lot of ways, it looks good that he jumped over the barrier, but if you think about it, he should have really been there and be like, everybody get, clear the area and such,
Yeah, he's too tunnel vision here. You see them locked in like a trained athlete.
Yeah.
Yep. We should, you know what? Excuse me. If anybody knows exactly how tall those barriers are, please let us know. I'm going to look into it. I want to see exactly the height of it. It's got to be maybe like 2.5 feet. I don't know.
Well, and then think it's below the curb too. So like you have the curb as the height too, right? Like, so the curb's like, I forget what curbs are.
Curb's probably about a foot.
No, not a foot. I forget what it. Yeah, actually, maybe. I forget what it is.
I think so.
I knew this, and I don't know why I don't know this anymore. But whatever it is, it's like you got the curb, and you go, and it's under that too. So you lose even more what the barrier is. So, all right, whatever. Let's get to the coffee donuts. But my point is, it wasn't an athletic feat at all. Like, it's an embarrassment that cops can't do that. Like it's a complete embarrassment. That it's like,
Hey, so maybe Eric Sanders was right. You don't need a mile and a half. You need the JST and keep practicing to jump over these barriers. Maybe
I
Eric was
don't
right.
even think they have the wall anymore, dude. I don't think they have the wall or any of that stuff. Dude, how many cops do you think could do a pull-up and pull their own body weight up?
No, I know a lot of people can't do pull-ups. That's scary. No, 100%.
Yeah. So if, you know,
isn't that funny though? You know, Sanders is arguing against the run, but you know, he's praising the chief for jumping the barrier. I mean, logically that doesn't make sense.
it's true because the chief is engaged in white supremacy right there by being able to do that. So
It's a very racist comments, you know that?
yeah. he must engage in acts of white supremacy that, you know.
Mike Marino says average person can do 3 pull-ups. That's pretty fucking sad. Wow. Yeah,
Average
you're probably
person?
right.
I don't think the average person can't do 3 pull-ups.
They probably do less.
True.
No way.
True.
No way. I don't think the average person could do a pull-up at all. I think that's like a small percentage of society.
I mean, you don't want to look at some of those graduates. So you really don't. You're gonna be wondering how much they can do.
I think Mikey Share is right. Mikey Share says it here. What's up? He says average person can't do 1. I think that's probably
100%. 100%. No way.
Well, you think about it, the scuba test, which I think scuba is still the only unit in the NYPD where a hook's not going to help you, and most of the people fail because you have to do 12 dead hang pull-ups, and most of the people, from what I've heard, they fail because of the pull-ups.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Hold on, I'm gonna look it up in chat. How many pull-ups can the average person do?
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess 1, 2, 1.
I'd say like -3.
Well, what was it? How many? What was the average? Someone could bench 205, something really low. So it's probably the same.
0.001% of the population.
Oh my god!
No, you know what? It's saying here that it's saying. Well, it's so Marino is right. It's saying so average pull-ups, men, untrained, general population 0 to 2. Average fitness 3 to 8, good fitness 10 to 15, excellent 15 to 20. So if you're in average fitness level, you should be able to do at least 3. So Marino's right.
Yeah, Marino's average fitness level. I mean,
but I don't think most people average fitness level. I don't think most NYPD recruits are average fitness level.
I don't even think John Shell could hang on the bar. I think he'd just fall off.
Wow. So I'm an excellent up here. So ChatGPT, you don't know what the hell it's talking about because I'm.
Hey, John, you're doing pretty good for 4'11".
Yeah. For being fat and 4'11", I do.
John's got to wear platforms.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. You know what it is, John? It's because you're bald. That's what it is. It takes away the inches.
Yeah. So all right. We're gonna start over now. I got to go. All that more came in while we were talking. All right, so Fred McIntyre, he says, not coffee and donuts. Get yourself some bagels, Cropsey Avenue bagels. Gives you 2 extra with a dozen. Just saying. I like it.
That's a good deal.
I like it. I've been staying away from the bagels, bro. I'm trying to watch my girls figure. You know,
Short
and fat doesn't look good. Short, fat, and bald and ugly, they don't look good on you. You know?
Hey, listen, this isn't coffee and donuts, but this is hilarious. TC says John needs a running start for pull-ups.
Wait, John. That's not really an accomplishment in Florida. I mean, you don't exactly have great bagels down there, you know?
Well, I mean, true. Dude, honestly, though, I was there, in January, I ate like an animal, bro. Like a legit animal. And I didn't do it because it was so cold. I was bored. I just kept going to, whatever bakery I wanted to go to, and I was eating all these cookies and all this. Bro, I felt horrible. And then when I came back, everybody's like, the food, you didn't bring me this, you didn't bring me that. And I'm like, dude, I'm so glad that I'm away from the food because I would be 800 pounds if I lived in New York City and it was this cold because all I would be doing is eating. It was freezing. I'm like, that's all I was doing was eating. I was eating pasta. I was gluttonous. I was I like being away from that shit.
I miss Bialys, dude. I can't find that anywhere.
Yeah, Bialys, yeah.
Oh, man, that was good.
Yeah. Marino gave me $10 for my elevator shoes.
Yo, Mike, thanks for. Yo, he needs more than that. He's 4'11", dude.
I guess Amazon, I could definitely get them for $10, 100%.
Dude, I'm 5'10". We're like the same size. I know what they're talking about. So I must be getting shorter too then.
I don't know. That's all right. I'll take it.
It's all right. It's all good. At least you're the same height as your wife.
I should get my own. Yeah. My wife is short.
She'll be taller than you.
Yeah. My kids are getting bigger than her already. So. Matt O'Brien, great show, John. Losing in inches. Getting ready. John losing in inches, getting ready for St. Patrick's Day leprechaun. That's it, people. That's it. Look, but seriously, check out the old St. Patrick's Cathedral on Mulberry Street. They got a statue of Dagger John there. Pretty wild, dude. I was like, wow, I didn't know that we had an archbishop with a pair of balls. Dude, was like, he literally said, if one of my churches burn, I'm going to burn the city down. Wow. I was like, so they got a statue of him there, and they were so worried about it that when he built the original cathedral, the original St. Pat's Cathedral, he fortified it with a fence and a wall, and that wall's still there today. So like from like the 1800s. So check it out. Go check out that. Go check out Dagger John. Pretty wild. Modern Samurai. He said the COVID mask is the Septembrine people who don't have the courage to get actual piercings. That thing is, I still see people with them, dude. Someone drove down my block. Someone drove down my block the other day with a mask on in the car by themselves, and I swear I couldn't even help it. I was like, I just stopped and I looked. I was like, is this a fucking joke? Like out loud, and my wife's like, what are you cursing about? And I was just like, I was just like, I followed. I was like, what is happening? What happened to people? Did we just break people like mentally?
I like some of the people, they come in colors too. Like they don't just wear them in white. They have like the color of the day. Like one day they have a green one, one day they have a red one. Like, wow, you gotta get stylish with it too.
Look, I can't even get it. Like that was 3 years after, right? But like now we're 6 years removed and we're still doing this.
Yeah.
Everything's been debunked. It's like,
oh, no, dude, this is gonna go on forever. I'm telling you, it's symbolism. It's virtue signaling. It lets people know, hey, I'm with them. Yeah. If you saw a crowd of people,
I hope that person was driving was driving north, back to New York and back to the east, the upper east, northeast.
Right into the heart of where I live. Look, you know Democrats, bro. They ruin it. They're like locusts, bro. They ruin everywhere they live, and then they go move to the next area. They kill all those crops too.
That's true.
And
it's true.
Steven S says they wear the color coward yellow. Yeah, definitely, brother.
When I was doing the transportation business, I drive this one guy, right? He's like, I forget what he is, but they're from Washington, D.C., but he worked for the government, right? And he started complaining about how the people overreacted to a homeless guy looking at the kids in the pool, like going up to where they had a pool, like they didn't live in a gated community, but like. And I was like, yeah. I was like, why? I was like, first off, I was like, where were the fathers that you even needed to call the police to just tell them to get out of that, right? And he's like, well, I don't think it's a big deal. And he was with his wife. I was like, you don't think it's a big deal that a grown man staring at little children playing in a pool? Like, you don't think that that's weird? I find that very strange. I wouldn't do it. I think that, if you're a father, you should be concerned with your kids. And he's like, well, I used to live in Washington, D.C., and people would pee in my stoop. And I was like, yeah, well, guess what? Now you live in Florida and people are going to pee on your stoop again if you have that same ridiculous mentality. And then the whole rest of the ride, it was like another 20 minutes. It was just dead silent. And I was definitely like mumbling under my breath too. But anyway, he never called us again.
He never tipped you, did he?
He did. Yeah, he was a good tipper, but he never called us again after that. I don't know what happened.
I'm sure that was one and done.
Yeah,
but people used to call and be like, "What's your COVID policy?" I'm like, "Yeah, we don't have one."
If you wear a mask, we're not picking you up.
Yeah. I'm like, if you want to wear a mask, man, wear one. It's America, but we're not.
Yeah. You come to Florida to escape the same thing you just brought down to Florida.
What's my COVID policy?
Yeah, wearing a mask in Florida must be really strange. You're like sweating, like sucking up your own sweat. It's nasty. Ugh.
Well, she sounded like Caban sounded like she was like spitting all over herself. While
She was
talking.
tasting her own bullshit. She was probably, oh man, she's skeevy. Oh, man.
She's my favorite. I don't know.
You like
Come on, you know when a city council hearing starts and Tiffany Caban's there, I'm telling. I don't even listen to it. I get right to as soon as they say we're going to Tiffany Caban, I just record it and it's solid gold every time, dude. It's solid gold every time. Like you don't need to worry about what she's gonna say. Like like you listen to it after and then like, all right, so what did she say? Okay, it's ridiculous. She's a platinum rapper. Yeah.
She probably sings good in the shower.
Big Hamza. I'm old school, 53 years old. I say bring back the cop on foot patrol. On the low end, it's a deterrent to crime. Best case scenario, you make a connection and change the culture. Totally agree, my friend. But you need competent people who are unafraid to engage with the public, who understand the community, understand the different cultures, and aren't afraid to, to get in and mix it up. Because, like, let's be honest, this job wants you to be somebody that you're not, dude. And so you're going in and you're going into these communities that maybe you're not a part of, and they want you to be a phony. How's that going to work out? I was always myself in those communities. I always told what I thought, and it always did wonders. And that's how you get it. You get real people, unafraid to have real conversations and speak their mind and talk about the cultures and talk about their faith and talk about what it is. Not people that you're looking for Twitter moments on Instagram. So yeah, appreciate you, brother.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it.
Modern Samurai. This is 2 decades in the making. When you criminalize law enforcement, this is a result. Policing in New York City is now attendance award, nothing more. Everyone is just doing their time to collect the pension eventually. I think you're right, but I don't think it's everybody. I think there are people still engaged in actually doing law enforcement, and they're realizing quickly that it's going to bite them in the ass. And, I think Grant Polugren is one of those people. You know what I mean? Like, I do. I think, you go out there, you do your job, and you just get passed over time and time again. And you get no recognition for your work. And whatever bullshit happens against you, that they'll believe more than what you do. So
Grant Polugren is an outlier, brother. I think he's right. I think a majority, unfortunately, that they're in their recruitment efforts, they're finding people that really don't want to be cops. They don't have that oomph in them. It's just a job or a stepping stone to another outlet. But for Grant Polugren, if you're watching this, brother, you're an outlier. And that's what we need. We need more outliers.
Yeah. We need more of those guys to eventually go up the ladders and be in charge.
I want to see that gold shield. That's what I want to see. So, Grant, when you get promoted, we'll be happy for you, brother.
Oh yeah, and you know what else? I'm just gonna thank you guys for the CRC. CRC is a critical response command. They are a counterterrorism apparatus in New York City that get deployed throughout the city to engage in counterterrorism. Not a protest though, because that would just be, why would we want to stop terrorism at a protest? So they actually got pulled off a mobile field force after the terrorist attack. So I just want to thank you guys for the CRC, because if it wasn't for the Finest Unfiltered, you'd still be doing that. But why anyone's still doing mobile field force is beyond me. But that's neither here nor there.
God, that is so retarded. You're
it's a waste of money and manpower.
Yeah, ridiculous.
But listen, the billionaires got no clothes, so don't we can't say anything here. JR2581, shout out to you. No comment. Appreciate you. We got Ruben Alvarez. What's up, brother? He says Mondani needs to stop his word salads. The fact that he did not even acknowledge that Islamic extremists tried to kill all of our officers is very troubling. SRG needs to be there, period. Just saying. Totally agree with you. He actually changed the narrative. If you listen to the press conference deeply, he pretends like the terrorist attack was against him and his wife from right-wing extremists, like white supremacists. Like that's what he meant. So, so that would keep that would fit in line with what Rebecca's been, Rebecca's got it, what she's been fighting for.
Well, look, we knew
for her whole career.
We know who he is. The people voted for him. This is the byproduct. This is the outcome. This is what you're going to get. Lives are at risk because people voted for him. They voted for someone who hates America, hates the police, hates New York City, and just defies logic, defies what's necessary for what was once the best city in the world. This is your mayor.
Yeah, but to be fair though, I mean the last mayors were all fighting white supremacy too. Though you remember Adams when he came in, he hired his brother. He hired his brother, and they were like, "What are you hiring your brother for? You can't hire your brother." He's like, "Oh, I need him because of white supremacy."
Yeah.
Everybody's like,
where are all these white supremacists? By the way?
Because of the white supremacy. It's like, where are you the mayor of West Virginia? Like, where are you? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, I want to know what white supremacy they're talking about in New York City.
Yeah, white
Well,
supremacy.
they're in Brooklyn. They're in Brooklyn.
Yeah, they're in
Intel
Chick-fil-A.
actually. At one point, Intel actually was looking for white supremacists in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wasting resources for that bullshit.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right, dude. Remember when they were trying to pin the hate crimes against Asians and Jews on white supremacists when it was all black kids?
Yep.
It was like every single one was a black kid, and they were blaming it on white supremacists. The NYPD was. We should have known. We lost the narrative at that point. Like, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah, who knew? We already lost it by then.
Yeah, it was like all black kids are beating up Jews and Asian kids, and we're saying, "Oh, we're looking for white supremacists." NYPD intelligence or unintelligence? Which one? Formerly known as
white. Marlon's white now.
Marlon's just a racist. That's it.
They don't consider Marlon black anymore because he's with the Finance and Filter. He's white.
He's a light skinned racist.
I was also called a commie this week too. So apparently I'm a racist, anti-Semitic commie.
Oh, they didn't know you're talking about the Balkanized society,
huh? Formerly known as Gang says Chief Edwards look good but failed to plan. Looks are deceiving, my friends. Looks are deceiving.
Would you rather it looks good or it actually turns out to be good?
Yeah. Yeah. I met a lot of girls in the club that I thought looked good until I got home.
Well, actually, that happens too. I remember being at the club. Hey, listen. We all been there, right? You dancing with a girl all night. I remember, Palladium or Sound Factory, and then when those lights came on, you're like, oh God, turn the lights back on.
Pat, you're fucked up that you're making me have to read this.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's funny enough that I have to. Macaroni's arresting officer checked off petite and husky boxes for John's pedigree. For hair type, arresting officer checked off thinning. Fuck you, you tall bastard. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, funny shit. All right, people.
I think Pat takes breaks during the show. He just comes back and just abuses us.
Just comes back, yeah. Yeah. It's funny shit. So, all right, peoples. I'm going to be out next week, limited on social media, all that. I'm taking the family away. Need a little break. I'm done being called a racist for the last few months.
Are you going on a racist vacation?
I'm gonna go engage in white supremacy. I'm probably gonna work out a little, hop barriers. Stretch myself out. I'm gonna stop doing pull-ups, and I'm just gonna hang on the bar, see if I get taller.
Yeah.
While you're out for the week, you see if you can try to stretch out so you can get a little taller.
Nin's last month's viewer of the month says, "I need a break from crying like a bitch."
Listen, you heard it here. 3 hours and 17 minutes into it. We appreciate this. This chat is off the charts. We appreciate friends and listeners and the trolls, of course. Your Friday roundtable next week. Marlon and I will bring it to you. John, enjoy your vacation. Everybody needs one. Anytime, need some R&R. It's good. It's a good reset. So we'll be back as always. We'll be back Monday with content. So get yourselves ready. Enjoy your weekend. I know I will. Thank you.
Yeah, Depp New York City says, "Hey, my friend was gang assaulted at the same protest before the bomb was thrown, and the cops didn't intervene. It's on video. Can he talk to you guys?" Absolutely. Have him reach out to us. You could DM us on social media, however he wants to. Hit up one of our emails. We'll definitely, we could definitely play the video and talk to him as a result, like what he thinks of it. So
hey, John, I must have struck a nerve with Nin.
Eric, you're a disgrace to the NYPD in the country.
Fuck you.
Wow, and the country.
Yeah. Oh, Nen, I don't know, Nen, what happened? I said thank you to the trolls. It's okay, Nen. It's all right. I'm sure you're having a bad day. It's okay, sweetheart.
Mon Samurai said, I'm going to practice box jumps to get over the New York City curbs. Beware the Ides of March. All right, people.
Yep.
You know, that's it. All right, so we're out. We'll see you. We'll see you back on Monday, 8:05. I almost said PM, 8:05 a.m. Eastern time. Find us on Filter, baby.
You do need a vacation. During your vacation, John, during your vacation, study the times of the shows. We're 8:05 live. I'm gonna
remember the executive perspective.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And 10-4 Tavern. This show is really it's really getting some steam. They're doing a great job. Great show with Jack Cambria. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out.
What time's the Guardians Power Hour on again? I forgot.
Yeah, John, now I think some people are starting to get it.
Yeah.
Something they were typing in the Guardians, like, what podcast? Oh, now I got you.
Yeah. All right, people.
Yeah, guys. So we appreciate you joining us today, and we hope that you have a great weekend. And I was hoping this meme would hurry up. Remember Oswald Bates from In Living Color, guys?
Yes.
Anytime I see Tiffany Command, that's her right there, you know?
In Living Color.
Speaking confidently in her bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. And if you're on patrol, wake up. Get your head in the game, all right?
That's right. Find us Unfiltered. You heard it here. Everybody enjoy. Have an awesome weekend. We'll be back. As always.
Mark, can you pull that thing down? I got it.
Yeah.
All right, I got it. All right, peoples. We're out. Later.
All right.
Yep.
Retaining Commissioner Tisch. My decision in retaining Commissioner Tisch is a decision on the basis of looking at her record, of coming into an NYPD that the Adams administration had stacked the upper echelons of with corruption and incompetence, and starting to root that out while lowering crime across the 5 boroughs. Making this decision not only in recognition of that, but also to fulfill the larger public safety vision that we had laid out over the course of the campaign, which focused on the creation of a Department of Community Safety that will tackle the mental health crisis, the homelessness crisis. This is also a decision that is not one that is in tension with the commitments I've made specific to the NYPD, like the disbanding of the Strategic Response Group.
Those things still happen.
That still happens. And I think that's what's important to make clear to New Yorkers, is that the things that we campaigned on around the disbanding of the SRG, the creation of the DCS, these are still things that we will fulfill. We will do so with the teams that we're building.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?